With painstaking efforts, he pushed his cultivation base to the peak of the cloud transformation realm and suppressed his vital essence 53 times. This was already a shocking number, even in the eyes of Zhuo and Zhuo Xiaoyan. But Zhuo felt that he could suppress it another 3 times. But now, he was in the territory of the Alliance. If he suppressed it to the limit and had no choice but to break through, he would have to go outside for a period of time to achieve the Heaven-Man connection. But that would be too risky. Therefore, Zhuo decided to break through to the God reigning realm after suppressing it to 55 times. Although it would not be the limit, it would still be a lot more than Yin Yin Cat. Zhuo had just exited the Tower of Annihilation and tiptoed forward for more than 10 miles. The Alliance's camp was just ahead. He had to try to go around it. This was his first attempt. He had to succeed. Otherwise, there would be no way back. As he got closer to the Alliance's camp, Zhuo became more and more tiptoed, all of a sudden with a soft paw sound as the beginning. The rumbling sound continued to be heard. The mountain in front of Zhuo suddenly collapsed, and it was rumbling all the way down. Suddenly, there was a commotion. Someone even shouted, and the sound shook the surroundings. "There's a spy." Boom! Hundreds of people flew into the air and surrounded him. Zhuo looked at the collapsed mountain with a dumbfounded expression. "Old man, it seems like you really have a grudge against my dad." The unforeseen event was, of course, the work of the old man. Since Zhuo exited the Tower of Annihilation, the old man had sensed Zhuo's reappearance at the first moment. After that, the old man saw the series of tiptoeing stealthily. Since it was an experience, how could the old man let Zhuo pass so easily? Naturally, he had to make a noise and expose Zhuo's whereabouts. Zhuo didn't even have the time to curse before someone discovered him. "Over there's a spy. It's someone from the astral souls." A murderous aura suddenly rose. A figure had already closed in on Zhuo like lightning. A sword light, like a viper, was aimed at the vital point of his throat, full of murderous intent. Zhuo waved his hand, and the civet sword suddenly appeared in his hand. The two swords collided in an instant, and sparks flew. The man grunted and retreated, blood spurting from the corner of his mouth. When the two swords collided, the sword in his hand was broken on the spot. At the same time, his internal organs were violently shaken and almost fell apart. Zhuo was stunned for a moment. The opponent was only a divine reigning warrior. With Zhuo's previous record, it was more than enough to kill the opponent with one strike. But as soon as they started fighting, the opponent was not only alert, but also quick to react. Knowing that he was no match for him, he stopped fighting and retreated. This divine reigning warrior was quite something, but Zhuo had already severely injured the opponent. Just as he was about to chase after him, the sound of metal blades cutting through the air came from all directions. The warriors of the Wizard Alliance cooperated with each other to the point of being extremely familiar with each other in battle. In a split second, Zhuo was already surrounded from all sides and was in a terrible situation where he was surrounded by enemies from all directions. Zhuo snorted coldly. He grabbed a bunch of small gourds in his hand, and then 8 of them wrapped around his body. With Zhuo's fear of death and the various trump cards he had prepared early on, how could he not have predicted that he would be surrounded from all sides by the enemy? Of course, he was prepared. Today was the day to test it. Although this military camp was in the territory of the Alliance, there were not too many strong martial artists stationed here. Most of the martial artists who surrounded him were in the nascent soul stage, and some even had the elixir stage. With their level, how could they withstand Zhuo's hidden weapons? Puff, puff, puff. Without exception, the gourds pierced through the heads of the 8 people who bore the brunt of the attack. Their bodies swayed a little before they fell and died. The moment Zhuo glanced at them, he had already judged the level of strength of the enemies. Although there were many of them, their combat power was mediocre. He immediately launched a counterattack. With a sweep of his sword chi, dozens of people were cut in half at the waist. Dozens of space rings fell into his hands at the same time. Zhuo was even more familiar with this kind of thing. Then his body followed his sword. The majestic sword Qi slowly circled around and caught up with the leading military officer who attacked at the beginning. It pierced through the back of his head and killed this god-reigning level master. Zhuo continued to charge outwards. There was no one in his hands who could withstand his attack. He rushed out like a hot knife through butter. In an instant, he had already rushed hundreds of miles away. Although Zhuo's journey was smooth, he did not let his guard down. Instead, he was fully alert for the impending danger. Because at this moment, the military alarm of the Umno Alliance had sounded all over the place. At least the surrounding thousands of miles had already been informed of the current situation. A spy from the astral souls has infiltrated. He is currently fleeing in the direction of the astral souls. He is probably escaping from the inland. He must have a lot of information that is unfavorable to us. We must intercept and kill him. This person is extremely ferocious. His cultivation level is high. A god-reigning level master died in his hands in 2 moves. Attention, all parties. Intercept and kill this spy from the astral souls at all costs. Report again. Currently, 6-star alert. Those who intercept and kill him will be promoted by 1 level. Their family members will be given a 2-level relocation order. Their unit will be collectively rewarded. Location: 1 day later. Report. Emergency report. The spy from the astral souls has gone berserk. His methods are extremely vicious and cruel. Level 1 promotion, 7-star alert. Those who intercept and kill him. 3 days later. Report. Level 9 promotion. No need to capture him alive. He must be killed. At all costs. Reward for success. At this point, the alert related to Zhuo had soared all the way to 9 stars. And this was already the highest alert level of the Umno Alliance. It had not appeared for many years. Now such a high-level alert suddenly broke out. Immediately, many of the high-level warriors in the inland of the Umno Alliance were extremely excited. They were eager to give it a try. Of course, facing a target with the highest alert level would be dangerous. But as long as this 9-star alert was eliminated, the rewards would be unimaginably great. It had been many years since they had a chance to improve themselves. How could they miss it? No matter how dangerous the target was, could it be more dangerous than attacking the Sun Moon Pass? After all, it came from the Umno Alliance's own territory. No matter how big the risk was, it was still small in their own territory. At this time, Zhuo was running and fighting in the forest. So far, it had been 3 days and 3 nights. In these 3 days and 3 nights, he had spent his time running and fighting nonstop. It was also in these 3 days and 3 nights that he had killed more than 1,000 masters of the Umno Alliance. However, the warriors of the Umno Alliance were rushing over from all directions. Not only were there a sea of people, but their cultivation levels were also getting higher. At the beginning, Zhuo had destroyed all the enemies easily, but now he was gradually feeling tired. Although it was not to the extent that it was difficult to deal with them, it was not as easy as before. Although he had the Tower of Annihilation and could hide in it at any time to avoid the attacks, Zhuo did not want to do so for the time being. Chapter 960. Zhuo knew this very well. Just like what the old man said, the current situation was indeed a crisis, but it was also a huge opportunity for him to greatly improve himself. Since he stepped onto the path of cultivation, even though he'd experienced life and death battles, when it came to a high-intensity battle like the one before him, where he was constantly walking on the edge of death and practically dancing on the tip of a blade, it was still the first time in his life that he'd encountered such an experience. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and persevered in fighting different enemies. He kept killing his opponents. The cat spirit sword had been stained with blood in the past few days. It was already 10 times more than what he had experienced before. Hunt in the Wansong Mountains. This was the official statement from the Umno Alliance. For the masters of the Umno Alliance, the spy from the astral souls was already a dead man. Everything that was happening now was just a process. It was just a matter of time until the final conclusion. Even if this person's cultivation was high, what could he do? Facing the encirclement of the entire Umno alliance, he would be killed in the end. It was absolutely inevitable. The other difference was who would kill this fellow in the end, and who would obtain this long-awaited honor of meritorious service. In a big city of the Umno alliance, Shahai held a piece of information and walked into the inner courtyard excitedly. Big brother, are you here? In a quiet garden, there were dozens of young people. They were both men and women. They were talking and laughing with each other. It was a noisy atmosphere. This group of people was full of energy. They were handsome and tall. Obviously, they were all geniuses. However, if one looked closely, it was not difficult to see that the 40 to 50 young people actually had their own camps. They could be roughly divided into 3 groups, each led by 3 young people. One of them had a handsome face and a slightly thin body. His eyes were squinted all year round as if he could not open them. He gave people a friendly feeling. He did not have to make any expression. When he met people, they would feel that he was smiling. He always had a friendly look. It was actually a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. The number of people gathered around him was also the largest. There were 27 or 28 men and women. The other leader was a young man who stood there like an unsheathed sword, emitting a sharp aura. His expression was cold. This person seemed to have never sat down and rarely moved around. The 7 or 8 men and women gathered around him were all cold and solemn. If one closed their eyes and relied on their senses to sense, it was not 7 or 8 people in front of them, but 7 or 8 unsheathed swords that were emitting a dense, killing intent. The leader of the group was a young woman. She was not born with an outstanding beauty. In fact, she even looked a little chubby. Only this woman's actions were full of kindness, and the 15 to 16 people around her were all very quiet. Some were even holding handkerchiefs to embroider, and 2 men were each holding a novel and reading. As he read, he laughed foolishly again and again. Taking a closer look at the title of the book, World Defying 9 Heavens. No wonder he was so immersed in it. It made sense. Big brother. Shahai hurriedly rushed in, but when he saw so many people, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then the cold young man slowly turned his head and his body. There was no fluctuation in his eyes, but his tone was a little impatient. What's the matter? Why are you making such a big fuss? But everyone could hear that he was actually not impatient. It was just that at this time, he should use an impatient tone, so he used an impatient tone. But in fact, in his heart, there was no fluctuation at all. The other 2 groups of people had the same reaction. They didn't even lift their eyelids. Shahai didn't call him. He called him Big Brother, not Third Brother, and not Big Sister. Big Brother, avenge me. My biggest enemy has come to the Umno Alliance. Shahai's face was red. It's the #1 genius of the astral souls, Xiaoduo, who can fight people 2 levels higher than him. This bastard when we were in the nascent soul trial space. Shahai's big brother, the cold young man, narrowed his eyes. Xiaoduo? He's here? On the other side, the squinting young man and the ordinary-looking young woman raised their heads at once when they heard this name. Xiaoduo? Is it really him? Yes, it's him, Shahai said. Look at this newly issued 9-star alert. The person on it must be Xiaoduo. Look at this information, this intelligence report. Young man in his 20s, handsome one, 89 meters tall, well-proportioned, wielding a sharp sword that could be described as a divine blade. He has countless hidden weapons in his hands, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. None of the hidden weapons missed. According to the investigation, the wounds of those who were killed by the hidden weapons were all fatal. As for those hidden weapons, they were just ordinary small, white jade gourds. Vicious in his attacks, savage in nature. All of these are characteristics of Xiaoduo. That bastard is like this, the cold young man said indifferently. But how long has it been since Xiaoduo participated in the nascent soul trial with you? The information recorded here. Look, the strength of the person who made the report should be at the peak of the God-reigning stage or the early stage of the profound returning stage. The cold young man said indifferently. It's only been a few months, and Xiaoduo has advanced from the nascent soul to the profound returning stage. Do you think I'll believe that? Or do you believe it? No. When Xiaoduo was at the nascent soul stage, He was invincible among his peers. Even if all of us joined forces, we still weren't his match. In other words, when he was at the nascent soul stage, his battle strength was no different from the peak of the cloud transformation stage. And not just any peak of the cloud transformation stage, but almost equivalent to the god reigning stage. After a few months of cultivation, his battle strength has increased to the peak of the god reigning stage, and even the profound returning stage. Although it sounds inconceivable, it's not absolutely impossible. The cold young man frowned and pondered. The ordinary-looking young woman said, "Shaja, what Shahai said is not without reason. The increase of some genius's battle strength can't be measured by common sense. It's not impossible to reach the heavens in a single step with a chance encounter." The cold young man, Shaja, nodded lightly. "Yes, there's always something unexpected in this world." The smiling young man said, "According to the information, this Wishaoduo is 18 years old. His current age should be 18 years old, less than a month old. Further information shows that he only started to have the talent to cultivate last year. If the person in this information is really him," the squinting young man said indifferently, "then this person might be even more terrifying than Mo Ing Feng, who was assassinated by the demon monarch of the astral souls." Mo Ing Feng. This was the name of a legend belonging to the Umno Alliance. Although he was only 22 years old when he died, he was still a legend. However, he was an out-and-out legend, a legend that was destined to become a myth. When Mo Ing Feng was born with a perfect soul, almost everyone thought that he was the reincarnation of Zhu Wu. When Mo Ing Feng was 12 years old, he had already broken through to the nascent soul stage and suppressed his true yuan 17 times in the inner core stage. This was an unimaginable number that most people couldn't comprehend. After that, he continued to improve. When Mo Ing Feng was at the peak of the soul-controlling stage, he wasn't at a disadvantage when facing ordinary sky, soar realm cultivators. He could even defeat them. When Mo Ing Feng was 22 years old, he used his soul-controlling stage cultivation to suppress his true yuan 19 times to break through to the returning profound realm. At that time, this progress shocked the entire Umno Alliance. At that time, not to mention that Sky Soar Realm cultivators weren't allowed to make a move. Even if they sent out a Sky Soar Realm cultivator, they would most likely be killed by Mo Ing Feng. But at that time, the demon monarch of the astral souls, Lei Changtian, sent his 36 demon monarchs to infiltrate the Umno Alliance. No one expected that when Mo Ing Feng's grandfather was celebrating his birthday, when all the experts of the family were gathered, they would brazenly make a move. A total of 8 peak Sky Soar Realm demon monarchs made a move at the same time. They launched a sneak attack on the birthday banquet and killed this Wu people genius on the spot. At that time, this matter almost led to the final battle between the two continents. Even the Flood, which was furious and made a move. She fought with the demon monarch and killed all 36 demon monarchs of the astral souls. But no matter what, Mo Ing Feng was still dead. No matter how much of a genius he was, no matter how legendary he was, once he died, it would be difficult for him to become a legend. Since then, no one in the Wizard Alliance continent had been able to match Mo Ing Feng in terms of soul power, cultivation speed, and battle prowess that surpassed his cultivation level. He defeated a Sky Soar Realm cultivator at the age of 22. What kind of glorious battle record was this? Even after that, Lei Yijin, who was highly praised by the Flood Witch, appeared. But when compared to Mo Ing Feng, Lei Yijin was still a level lower. In fact, it wasn't just a level lower. Although everyone present looked young, they knew each other well. If one were to compare their actual age to an ordinary person, they would already be considered old. But first of all, they looked better this way. Second of all, their fathers all looked like they were in their 30s or 40s. If they looked old and gray-haired, how could they still look good? Therefore, in the eyes of ordinary people, they were just a bunch of young people who had just come of age. Shaja's eyes narrowed. He said, "Shahan, you mean? This Wishaoduo is a big threat?" Shahan narrowed his eyes and smiled. "It's not just big. If we want to deal with him, I suggest we use the incineration order." Shaja pondered for a moment. He looked at the ordinary woman and said, Shayu, what do you think? Shayu said indifferently, the incineration order is the most useful. Since Wishaoduo has come to the Umno Alliance, we can't let him go back alive. And if we go and fight with him, there's a high possibility that we'll just be giving Wishaoduo experience. No matter which one of us dies, it'll be a great loss to our family. But the incineration order is different. Those who use it will only self-destruct. They only want results. There won't be any battles. Chapter 961. You're right. There's no reason to reason with the burning order. Even if the astral souls knew about it, they would have nothing to say. They just didn't want to live anymore and self-destructed. But you were there. Aren't you just unlucky? Huh. What experience? What merit? So Wishaoduo won't get a single bit of it. He will only die in the continuous explosions. In the end, he'll be turned into minced meat after the last explosion. But the burning order isn't something we can use. Shaja smiled bitterly. Shayu said indifferently, hand over Xiaoduo's information to the elders and let them analyze that he's even more dangerous than Silent Storm Thunderbolt. That's enough. You don't have to say anything, and we don't have to do anything. That's right. Sha Hun clapped his hands. Sister Yu is indeed wise. Sha Yu snorted and said, but we can't keep this to ourselves. We have to inform the other families. Shahai. Sister Yu, I'm here. Shahai was very honest. Spread this news and Zhua Xiao's information to the 12 families as soon as possible. Also, tell those families that had young soul transformation stage geniuses who died in the astral souls that Zhua Xiaoduo is here. Their great enemy is here. An eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. Sha Yu said coldly, let these people go and exhaust them first. If they can really kill Zhua Xiaoduo first, then we don't want any of the benefits and merit points. All of it will be theirs. If they fail, then the burning order will be used. At that time, no one will be able to say anything. Sha Yu sighed softly. The burning order is admirable. If we can prevent too many of them from dying, we should try our best to avoid it. Even if we have to pay a little more, it's only right. Yes, Sister Yu. Go. Sha Yu said lightly. We must spread this news throughout the Umno Alliance in the shortest time possible. Wait. Sha Hun stopped Shahai. He lowered his head and muttered to himself, I've thought of a few words. I'll send them out as well. What words? How many years has it been since the rise of the astral souls? How many years has it been since the rise of the astral souls? How many years has it been since the 3 races were pacified? How many years has it been since the world was unified? Sha Hun narrowed his eyes and said, spread the word as soon as possible. Tell them that this is a prophecy passed down in the astral souls. It's fine as long as you don't know anything else. What is this? Shahai was confused. What did that mean? You don't have to worry about it. You just need to spread the news. Someone will naturally interpret it, Sha Hun said calmly. All right. Shahai hurried out. He was really anxious now. He didn't expect Zhua Xiaoduo to appear in the Wu people's headquarters. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. Zhua Xiaoduo, kid, since you're here, don't even think about going back. You're destined to be buried here. From now on, the nightmare will cease to exist. Watching Shahai leave, Sha Yu muttered to herself. She looked at Sha Hun and said, Sha Hun, you're still the most cunning one. No wonder the elders always say that narrow-eyed people don't have good intentions. It's true. Huh. Sha Hun narrowed his eyes and said, it's just a psychological trick. It's nothing. However, this was Xiaoduo. Are you really not going to take a look? Someone besides said, didn't you say that it's not appropriate for us to take action? Sha Hun narrowed his eyes and smiled. Yes, we'll try our best not to take action. However, not taking action doesn't prevent us from watching the show. Also, Zhua Xiaoduo was able to improve so quickly. Do you think that he doesn't have any secrets? He lowered his voice and said, I heard, just heard. It said that when Moing Phone was suddenly killed, someone seemed to have heard a sigh. It was very, very soft. It was said that. He suddenly stopped. The dozens of people around them all pricked up their ears to listen. Sha Hun said mysteriously, those were 4 words. It said that. Unbind. Shaja couldn't help but laugh. You've read too many novels on Chidian Chinese network, right? That sigh. Is it an old grandpa who carries you around? Ha ha. Everyone burst out laughing. Shah Han himself also narrowed his eyes and laughed uncontrollably. However, Shah Yu pondered for a moment and said, I'll go and watch the show. I'll go too. We'll all go. Ha ha. Watching a show is my favorite. Shah Han narrowed his eyes and laughed loudly. However, there was a flash of light in his eyes. The so-called system was, of course, a joke made by Shah Han. It didn't exist at all. In fact, if such a thing really appeared for high-level cultivators with a certain level of cultivation, most of them wouldn't care about external objects that could affect their cultivation. They would avoid it like the plague. If they really had a system, it would mean that they would be controlled by others for the rest of their lives. And for cultivators who had entered the path of cultivation, who would be willing to be a puppet for the rest of their lives. Not to mention other things, it would be difficult to deal with inner demons that disturbed one's own state of mind. However, this didn't stop Shah Han from using this method to remind everyone that's what Xiaoduo might have a great fortune that wasn't inferior to the system. It might even be a great opportunity that was beyond imagination. Although they didn't know what it was exactly, it was inevitable that it would be useful. Everyone chatted and laughed. After a while, they set off together. There weren't any more speculations about Zhou Xiaoduo. However, in the depths of everyone's eyes, there was a flash of light. It was obvious that everyone's mind was spinning with their own thoughts. Sansol's words gave rise to endless associations in everyone's minds. That's right. Zhou Xiaoduo has only entered the path of cultivation for a little more than a year. Previously, he was in a completely useless state and had to repeat 5 years. Suddenly, he soared to the sky. There must be a reason. To be able to turn a useless person into the top choice of the current generation of talents, his opportunity might be an innate spiritual treasure. It's said that among the innate spiritual treasures, there are many that can condense spiritual liquid to assist in cultivation. In the early stage of cultivation, it's almost a piece of cake to be able to catch up and surpass geniuses of the same age in half a year. Perhaps Zhou Xiaoduo had such an opportunity? This kind of great fortune in cultivation does exist. For example, it's said that the Ice Abyss, which was originally the brother-in-law of the Fire Abyss Witch, it's said that when the Fire Abyss, which became a great witch, the Ice Abyss, which was just a playboy, he even had the elegant title of the #1 scumbag of the younger generation. However, after obtaining the Ice Soul during an adventure, his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. He went from the #1 scumbag of the younger generation to the #1 scumbag of the 12 great witches. It's clear that this kind of thing really exists. There are precedents to follow. It's not just the Ice Abyss Witch. It's said that the southern marshal of the Astral Souls continent, Nan Zhengxian, was also a person who progressed very slowly in cultivation. However, by chance, he obtained a mysterious flying knife. That flying knife had the miraculous effect of assisting cultivation. That's why Nan Zhengxian's cultivation speed caught up with his peers and even became outstanding. It could be said that it was the cornerstone for him to eventually become a marshal. Although this kind of thing can't be said to be everywhere, there are still many people who have seen it. It's not uncommon. And Zhou Xiaoduo, I think, also obtained this kind of opportunity. It's not impossible to seize this kind of opportunity. I believe that as long as Zhou Xiaoduo is killed, the opportunity in his possession will become an ownerless item. If I get it, I'll definitely have a chance to become a great witch, or even an existence that surpasses the great witch. However, with so many people going together, even if I have a chance, it'll be a lot thinner because of these many people. I'll have to think of a way. However, the most important thing now is to go. If I don't go, I won't have a chance at all. As for Shaja, he said indifferently, Zhou Xiaoduo bullied my brother. I must avenge my brother. Everyone was speechless. What a good reason. The news from the desert ocean was sent out one after another. In a very short time, it caused a great commotion among countless Umno Alliance families. Zhou Xiaoduo came to the Umno Alliance. The great enemy who killed their genius actually came to the Umno Alliance. He was simply courting death. This was a heaven-sent opportunity to avenge their genius. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, an order was quickly passed down. Zhuo Xiaoduo is currently the #1 person on the human favor order list. No family or force is allowed to send experts above the Sky Realm, including Sky Realm experts, to deal with Zhuo Xiaoduo. Those who violate this order will be exterminated. When this order was passed down, countless people were puzzled. What was the human favor order? Why were cultivators above the Sky Realm not allowed to deal with Zhuo Xiaoduo? However, the higher-ups didn't give any explanation at all. They just passed down an order to the Umno Alliance. The only thing the people below needed to do was to follow the order. Therefore, the human favor order suddenly became the hottest topic in the Umno Alliance. Many people were asking, what is the human favor order? Then, the human favor order, which used to only exist in the higher-ups, was revealed in front of everyone. After all, there were many people who knew about the human favor order. Naturally, one person spread it to 10 people, and 10 people spread it to 100 people. I see. So this is the so-called human favor order. This is the protection that the higher-ups give to their geniuses. Everyone enjoys the protection of the human favor order. Naturally, there's nothing wrong with that. But now, what should we do? As people learned about the human favor order, the incineration order suddenly came into everyone's attention. It turned out that it could be done like this. Then, many families started to think about it. Many experts of the families had already set out and rushed to the place where Zhuo Xiaoduo appeared. Countless geniuses of the Umno Alliance, God Reigning Realm, and Guixian Realm experts had heard of the name Zhuo Xiaoduo, who dominated the nascent Soul region. They had long been curious about this person and naturally set out to find him. At the same time that Sha Han's words also began to spread in the Umno Alliance. Chapter 962. How many years will it take for the astral souls to rise? How many years will it take for the astral souls to rise? How many years will it take for the 3 races to be pacified? How many years will it take for the world to be unified? This sentence sounded very normal, but in fact, most people did not think much of it. They just snorted. This was a sentence that had been said in the astral souls continent for many years. Many people were saying it, and many people were looking forward to it. The people of the astral souls continent were dreaming too much. They actually wanted to wipe out the 3 races and unify the world. They really did not know their limits. However, there were always people with ulterior motives in this world. They were used to making simple things complicated. When they saw this sentence, they all frowned. In their eyes, this sentence had a deeper and more obscure meaning. When they thought of Zhuo Xiaoduo, who had recently turned the Umno Alliance upside down, some people suddenly had a feeling of realization. Then they felt a chill run down their spines. How many years? The key is how many years. This number of years, if we take it apart, if we understand it as many young people, or Zhuo Xiaoduo has reached the age of young people. But looking at the situation now, this Zhuo Xiaoduo can't be separated. Could this prophecy be referring to Zhuo Xiaoduo? Zhuo Xiaoduo will pacify the 3 races in the future, unify the world? This Zhuo Xiaoduo is actually so dangerous? My guess is right? Could it be the truth? Whether it was the truth or not, these people with ulterior motives in the Umno Alliance had, sooner or later, spread their epiphany. Whether it was right or not, it was absolutely necessary to report this discovery. If it was true, the consequences would be too serious. They could not let their guard down. The people of the Umno Alliance immediately contacted their spies in the Astral Souls continent. Did this sentence appear before them? Speaking of this, he had to praise Sha Han for his meticulousness, because this sentence had truly existed before. Although it was only a part of it that had been dissected, this sentence was simply too common. Whenever there was a gathering of friends, they would sigh and say, how many years will it take for astral souls to flourish? All of the spies were dumbfounded at the confirmation of the relevant clues. It was such a normal sentence. What did he want to confirm? Was there anything worth confirming? Hence, he replied, isn't this sentence very common? This sentence had been said here for God knows how many years already. There is nothing wrong with this reply. However, the moment the Wizard Alliance received this reply, they were even more horrified and felt their hearts turn cold. It was actually true? Then, as a prophecy, wouldn't it be a perfect match for Zhuo? Couldn't they be more compatible? Thus, the Alliance came to a conclusion. Kill Zhuo at all costs. Request for the incineration order. At this moment, on the faraway continent of astral souls, Shangjing, another secret message was sent. The heavenly Tao of astral souls is chaotic and obscured from the heavens. However, I can vaguely see a malefic star heading south, hanging over the Witchland. My guess is that the number one genius of the human relations order, Zhuo, is currently in the Alliance's territory. I hope that the Alliance will do everything in their power to kill him. We must not let him return to the astral souls. This was a highly confidential piece of information. It was the highest level of confidentiality, and it was directly sent to the highest office of the Alliance. After the other side received the secret letter and confirmed that it was a drawing of a white cloud, they did not dare to be negligent and immediately reported it to the heavenly kings of the Wizard Alliance who were in charge of all the affairs of the Wizard Alliance continent. The heavenly kings also realized the seriousness of the situation. This was a message that was sent at the risk of exposing the biggest mole in the organization. It was obvious that the spy attached great importance to this matter. Where is Zhuo now? What's his position? The target is currently approaching the Scarlet Sun Mountains. He's currently moving around the Lone Bamboo Mountains at an extremely fast speed. Order the nearby garrisons to seal off the Lone Bamboo Mountains and the Scarlet Sun Mountains. Not only the roads, but even the secret places in the sky, the ground, and the forests must be heavily guarded. Although Sky Realm cultivators and above can attack, they can lock onto the target's position from high up in the sky. They must report their position at all times so that the target has nowhere to hide. Use the incineration order immediately to kill this person and eliminate all future troubles. Send out all the Alliance's incineration order holders and divide them into 10 battle echelons. The first wave will be a 100-man incineration order group as a probing attack. After this wave of attack, we'll determine the follow-up attack pattern based on the situation. Yes, for a moment, the Alliance's territory was in turmoil. This series of changes made the demonic path ancestral master, Lei Changtian, a little dumbfounded. With his experience and shrewd eyesight, how could he not see that the current situation was starting to go wrong? It was gradually developing in a direction that was completely out of his control. At this moment, he was still floating in the sky and overseeing the overall situation. Naturally, he could clearly sense that the movements and auras of the nearby Wizard Alliance cities, military camps, garrisons, and other forces suddenly showed an intense turbulence that was similar to a boiling pot. Then, in a very short period of time, the auras of countless high-level cultivators gathered from all directions. The garrisons of the 5 legions at the front also began to move in unison towards the Scarlet Sun Mountains and the Lone Bamboo Mountains. The overall movement of the army was like a giant pincer. It was as if they were going to surround this place and block off all possible escape routes. Even further away, the army that was originally heading towards the front lines suddenly turned around and rushed over here. Such a targeted movement made Lei Changtian sweat on his forehead. How could there be such a big movement? The current movement was so big that it could be said to be a big breakthrough. Just the size of the 6 legions that were mobilized had already exceeded 600,000 people. And with every passing second, the momentum that was pressing towards this place was a little thicker. And the only thing that could cause such a situation and create such a feeling was that a large number of experts were gathering from afar and from all directions. On the 4th day, the first batch of people had already rushed into the Lone Bamboo Mountains. And this first batch of people had already reached 3,000 people. And after this first batch of people rushed in, there was an endless stream of people coming in and continuing to enter. Lei Zhantian was high up in the sky, looking down from above. He looked at the high-level cultivators of the Wizard Alliance from all directions. It was like a gathering of ants. The black mass of people kept rushing over from afar and plunging into the ground. At first, it was in groups of 3 to 5, then it was in groups of 30 to 50. Then on the 5th day, it was already in groups of 3 to 500 people rushing down. What the hell? What's going on? Lei Chantian was dumbfounded and speechless. For a long time, he was speechless. Speaking of which, he had already tried his best to overestimate the influence of his grandson, but he still didn't expect such a result, especially when he checked the momentum of the thousands of Skysoar realm experts that had suddenly gathered. He started to feel a little numb. Then he saw that there were a few Dao integration stage experts hiding among them, and they were using their divine senses to lock down the Crimson Sun Mountain area. Lei Chantian felt even more guilty. Lei Chantian felt like his, but was on fire. This fucking can't go too far, right? Speaking of the Umno Alliance's current lineup, not to mention that Zhuo had yet to reach the God-reigning realm. Even if he was at the peak of the God-reigning realm, or even the peak of the profound returning realm, it would be extremely difficult to win over them. Lei Chantian checked again and again, and after confirming that there were no signs of great shamans making a move, he felt relieved. As long as there are no great shamans leading the team. Who was Lei Chantian? He was a peerless expert, second only to the 3 pillars of the astral souls of the Umno Alliance, Dao League, and Astral Souls. As long as there were no peerless experts of the same level as him present, it wouldn't be difficult for him to take Xiaoduo away safely with his skills. However, no matter how powerful Lei Chantian was, he didn't dare to face the current lineup of the Umno Alliance head-on. Sometimes, a person's strength was limited. Even if it was him, if he wanted to face an army of hundreds of thousands of high-level cultivators head-on, other than the Flood Witch's peerless hammer and a certain long saber, even Taoist Lei wouldn't dare to face them head-on. Lei Chantian was certain that although the current lineup was huge and had greatly exceeded his expectations, as long as there were no great shamans leading the team, the situation was still within his control. However, if any of the 12 great shamans appeared here, this old man would immediately throw away his face and ask for help from you, Dantian and his son, as well as the great commanders of the 4 directions. However, the current situation still made this old man, no matter how confident he was, somewhat frightened. What on earth did this kid do? How could a junior like him cause such a big commotion in the Umno Alliance? Damn it, even if I threw Nan Zhengxian here, I might not be able to cause such an effect, right? It was true that Lei Chantian was the demon ancestor, and he was experienced in the ways of the world. However, he hadn't stepped foot in the mortal world for many years, so it was inevitable that the information he knew was limited. For example, he knew about the secret training in the Starlight Mountains, but he didn't know much about it. For example, he didn't know what his good grandson had done in there. He also didn't know how great his grandson's ability to cause trouble was. Let's see. For the first time, Lei Chantian's face showed a worried expression. He had already started to think, if things went really bad, I would directly rush down and grab him by the scruff of his neck and run away. No one in the Umno Alliance camp could stop me. However, things had developed to this point, and Lei Chantian was really a little bit at a loss. Daughter, don't worry. Dad won't harm my grandson. At this moment, so Xiaoduo was already bathed in blood. He was like a faint trace of blood in the forest, continuing to advance towards the southeast. His direction had always been constant. That was the direction of the Sun-Moon Pass. As long as he killed his way back, he would be safe. Chapter 963. And one of the major reasons why Xiaoduo continued to advance without any hesitation was because now, it was just the beginning. The news had not spread widely, and the blocking forces along the way were not very strong. As long as he rushed all the way like this, he could shorten the distance by a lot. This was also the easiest time to rush. It was estimated that after rushing through this wave, it would really be the time when the bayonet was red, when the masters came out in large numbers, and countless strong pillars blocked the way. Only then would he need to go all out and risk his life to deal with it. As for now, while the masters of the enemy had not arrived yet, he only needed to rush forward maximizing his speed and shortening the distance between himself and the other side. Like a light smoke, he moved at the speed of light in the mountain forest. On this side, there was a loud bang, and half of the mountain was blown up, but he had already gone 10,000 meters in the other direction and started to kill again. The sword in his hand, the hidden weapons in his hand, he constantly attacked and killed the enemy. Bite and Joe anxiously cried out. But Zwishaoduo was not moved at all. Now is not the time to use the eternal stone of astral souls and the 9-9 cat hammer. He knew very well that every corpse he killed was being studied by someone behind. The eternal stone of astral souls was his trump card and could not be easily exposed. And the 9-9 cat hammer, even more so. So far, there were already 2,000 space rings stained with blood in the Tower of Annihilation. Although they were all low level, but even a mosquito's leg was meat, and as long as he brought it back, it could be exchanged for money. They were all resources. With another loud bang, 40 to 50 people rushed forward together and swarmed over. Zwishaoduo did not even blink, and more than 50 small gourds poured out like a storm. The cat spirit sword in his hand was as fast as a special chef cutting shredded potatoes, and he chopped off 49 arms. His empty left hand was not idle either, and with a flow of energy, he skillfully grabbed all 49 rings in his hand. His body was like a meteor rushing through the 49 people who were lying on the ground. Although his movements were frequent from beginning to end, his speed did not slow down at all. The series of movements were as smooth as flowing water, natural and without the slightest hesitation. The only flaw in this series of actions was probably the landing point of the 50th small gourd. Although it passed through a big tree and exploded on the forehead of a person behind the tree, taking away his life, the position was a little too far. Zwishaoduo couldn't get the ring he was carrying with him. He could only choose to give up. While he thought to himself that it was a pity, he was already 3,000 meters away. After killing another 10-man squad, Zwishaoduo dashed into a patch of dense grass on the left side, as if he was playing whack-a-mole. Then he drilled 3 meters into the ground, burning holes along the way. In one breath, he had covered a distance of more than 100 meters. At this point, he had already entered the territory of Lone Bamboo Mountain. The Lone Bamboo Mountain range was located in the center. It was famous because of the Lone Bamboo Mountain that was tens of thousands of meters high. The name of Lone Bamboo Mountain came from the lone starlight bamboo that grew at the top of the mountain. But now, the legendary starlight bamboo had already been cut down by the Zhumang shaman of the Umno Alliance to be used as a weapon. There was not even a single bamboo on Lone Bamboo Mountain. It had not lived up to its name for a long time. But today, there was an extra military camp on the mountainside of Lone Bamboo Mountain. It had fallen from the sky a day ago and had already been set up. In just one day and one night, they had already dug more than 100,000 traps on the mountain. All to serve Zwishaoduo, because this was the only way to return to the Sun-Moon Pass. This path full of traps and thorns would lead Zwishaoduo to the path of hell. Even if all 20,000 of us die, we must kill Zwishaoduo. Don't wait for the burning order. Don't tell me that our Umno Alliance's soldiers don't even dare to self-destruct. Kill Zwishaoduo. I will sacrifice myself to pave a path to the heavens for my other brothers. Beyond Lone Bamboo Mountain is Lone Bamboo City. In Lone Bamboo City, there are our fellow villagers, our parents, our children, our wives, our descendants. Once Zwishaoduo enters Lone Bamboo City, we may not be able to kill him in the city, but we can imagine how much damage Lone Bamboo City will suffer. I heard that this Zwishaoduo is the most vicious and merciless person. He kills people like flies, rapes and pillages. There is nothing he won't do. His hands are stained with blood. We can't let such a murderer near our families. We can't let that happen. Never. Kill Zwishaoduo. Kill Zwishaoduo. Kill the spy from the astral souls and protect us. We are men of the Umno Alliance, and we have the courage to do so. The commander's speech made the cultivators' blood boil. Their morale soared to the heavens. The commander of the 20,000 soldiers was at the peak of the profound returning realm, a half-step ascension realm cultivator. Against Zwishaoduo, It was the perfect time to send all of them. Although there weren't any Ascension Realm cultivators, there were still quite a few profound returning realm cultivators. So Xiaoduo rushed into Lone Bamboo Mountain, and after less than 500 meters in stealth, he felt that something was wrong. This was clearly a net waiting. Looking at the countless thin threads in front of him, as well as the intertwining and flickering infrared rays in front of him. Damn it, I was wondering why the pursuers didn't come here. It turns out that they have already set up an inescapable trap for me. Originally, Xiaoduo's plan was to find a place to hide and dig. The difficulty of digging a tunnel was that it was inefficient and time-consuming. It also consumed too much energy and was difficult to continue. However, Xiaoduo had the Tower of Annihilation in his hands. If he was underground, he could enter a state of recovery at any time. As the difference in the flow of time between the two sides was not small, as long as he controlled it well, he could almost form an uninterrupted continuous excavation. Furthermore, with the help of the heavenly witch copper shovel, digging was a piece of cake. Using this method to pass through Lone Bamboo Mountain was much cheaper than facing the enemy head-on. It was also much safer. But now, after seeing how tight the enemy's defense was, his original plan was definitely not going to work. If he made a mistake, he would be caught like a turtle in a jar. So Xiaoduo's eyes flickered as he made up his mind. Using his fastest speed, he charged forward forcefully. It was as if a bolt of lightning had passed through the sky, covering a distance of 1,500 meters. Along the way, he broke more than 10,000 threads. Below, boom, 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 in the whole area, all the buried landmines and bombs were detonated one after another. For a moment, the mountain shook and the ground shook. Smoke and dust filled the sky. The power of modern explosives was shown in an instant. However, Xiaoduo had already gone thousands of meters away. His body turned into energy and rushed up to the sky. In an instant, he moved 3,000 meters horizontally. After making a turn in the air, he arrived at the other side and landed silently. With a slight movement of the heavenly witch copper shovel, Xiaoduo had already burrowed into the dense grass. They dug all the way down. Although the original plan of digging through the mountain was no longer feasible, they could still use this method to temporarily gain some breathing time. Unfortunately, Xiaoduo was too optimistic. All of a sudden, Xiaoduo, who was already 70 to 80 meters underground, felt his heart throbbing as he felt that something was wrong. Danger! Although he did not know why, Xiaoduo did not hesitate to enter the Tower of Annihilation the moment the sense of danger rose in his heart. At this moment, at the position where he was burrowing down, about 10 meters below, an unknown number of explosives were suddenly detonated. The strong explosive force rushed up from the ground like a volcanic eruption. The concentrated explosion produced a mushroom cloud that rushed into the air. At this moment, half of the mountain was almost blown up. A few figures flashed to the high altitude of the explosion and smelled the pungent smell of gunpowder. A handsome middle-aged man wearing the military uniform of the Umno Alliance said, "It seems that I guessed right. Seeing that the military has set up a tight defense, the other party simply charged forward and detonated the explosives. Then he used his super body movement to move to another position in another direction. He even went underground. Finally, the arrangement was right. Even if he went underground, it would be difficult to avoid. But I don't know if he was hurt this time. Don't be blindly optimistic. If you predict the situation to be worse, it will only be beneficial for the encirclement later. Any carelessness or negligence may cause all our efforts to be in vain." The other person had a resolute face and hawk-like eyes. As soon as the mushroom cloud rose, the military experts in all directions rushed to the center of the explosion without any regard for their own safety. In 3 seconds, they had already turned the area upside down, but they did not find anything. The handsome middle-aged officer of the Umno Alliance said slowly with a sullen face, "Just now, the target did appear from here. Otherwise, the explosives would not have detonated. Only after he burrowed into the ground and the microwave oscillator picked up his aura would this happen. Not to mention that the oscillator's waves can distinguish between friend and foe. Our people would definitely not rashly enter this area at this time. So, the person who triggered the microwave oscillator could only be Zhuo. This time, Zhuo must have been shaken. Even if it did not take his life, it would not be easy for him. If Zhuo can't find it, or if he is not injured, then Zhuo either has a unique concealment technique, or a defensive treasure that we do not know about, or a defensive space. It is said that Master Dan Kong once went to the interior of the astral souls and destroyed one of their research. The result of that research is said to be a space treasure with the goal of carrying people. Although Master Dan Kong successfully destroyed the research, they still kept some half-finished products. That thing is called the Space-Destroying Tower. Chapter 964. According to the information we have on Zhuo, the principal of the Hidden Dragon High School, Yi Changqing, owns such a tower of annihilation. If Yi Changqing gave his tower of annihilation to Zhuo, and if the information is correct, the main reason why Zhuo was able to avoid this disaster was that he escaped into the Tower of Annihilation in time, which has the ability to accommodate living people. The elegant and handsome middle-aged military officer said calmly, "For now, we haven't found anything." The vital signs collection device also didn't find any vital signs of Zhuo. However, I estimate that Zhuo couldn't have been killed by the explosion. Whether it was his cultivation or the combat strength he displayed, it shouldn't have been so. Therefore, I'm more inclined to believe that he has the Tower of Annihilation that belonged to the principal of the Hidden Dragon High School, Yi Changqing. Pass down the order. The entire army is to search the land, mud, and mountain rock within a radius of 5,000 meters to confirm the existence of such a small tower. Search according to the depth of the explosion. The deepest position underground is 120 meters. If you find it, don't act rashly. Immediately gather the suicide squad and directly self-destruct it. Okay, thousands of martial artists in the army began to search closely. General Lei, you're indeed the brains of the military. You're far-sighted and wise. Commander, you flatter me. I'm just a little more cautious out of habit. General Lei smiled faintly, but his gaze didn't relax at all. It had to be said that if Zhuo didn't have the Tower of Annihilation, or if the Tower of Annihilation was still in its initial state, he would have been directly calculated by General Lei. He would have been doomed at every step. This person was the descendant of the Lei family, Lei Bao, one of the 12 great shamans. He was also one of the most outstanding people among the younger generation of the Lei family. At a young age, he had already been promoted to a deputy in the army. Aside from the fact that his cultivation base was only at the God-reigning realm, he was not inferior to the generals who had fought on the border for many years in all other aspects. If Zhuo escapes, and we can't find any traces of him, then what is the next place where he will most likely appear? The Legion commander knew that although he was the leader in name, he was actually just a supporting role for General Lei. Not only was his family background something he could not afford to offend, but he was also truly capable. He was not just an armchair strategist. To be able to have such a life experience was already a blessing for him and his family. As long as he followed this Deputy Legion commander, he would be able to achieve meteoric success in the future without any obstacles. For a second-rank Legion like his to have such an opportunity was already a rare opportunity. There was no such thing as suppression or competition. The name of the Lei family was enough to make all military generals shrink back on the path of competition. If Zhuo is safe from this wave of explosions, he will most likely return to the initial point of explosion, which is the direction of the series of explosions that he deliberately set off. After the series of explosions, that area will be the safest place to ambush. Then, he will create chaos over there again, creating layers of fog for our judgment. Then, he will turn back here and continue to advance towards this area. General Lei, Jiu Xiao pondered and said, "Just now, he set off the explosions over there and came here directly. This means one thing. That is, this is the distance that Xiao Duo can travel with ease. He can fly over from there, and this distance will not affect him at all. He can go into full combat mode at any time. This is a person's thought process. If I was with Xiao Duo, if his reputation is true, then there's a high probability that he would make such a choice. Lei Jiuxiao said indifferently, and what we need to do is to go up a little further from here and set up another ambush. But this time, the explosives from below are no longer of any use. Then how should we set it up? With the power of modern technology, this is already the limit. Facts have also proven that it is extremely difficult to hurt an expert like Xiao Duo. Then, the following arrangements will have to focus on the Suicide Squad's self-destruction. Lei Jiuxiao's elegant face was filled with pity. Let the Suicide Squad move. Prepare 50 people. Prepare a pinnacle of the Gui Xian level. When Xiao Duo appears, overdraw your life force to hold him back. You only need to hold him back for half a minute or even 10 seconds. Then, 50 people will gather together and self-destruct at the same time. It will be enough to kill him. Blow him up in order to complete the mission. Blow up this pinnacle of the Gui Xian level as well. Lei Jiuxiao sighed softly. I will be in charge of the arrangements for the descendants of these 51 people and their families. As for this Gui Xian, I will be in charge of getting him the highest medal of the Alliance's 12 great witch statues. Hearing such conditions, the Legion commander Yu Meng's eyes lit up. He had an impulse. The 12 great witch statues could guarantee that his descendants would receive the same training opportunities as the direct descendants of the 12 great witches, the same resources, and the same brilliant future. At this moment, even the Legion commander had the impulse to compete for the chance to self-destruct. This self-destruction was too fucking worth it for the long term. The moment Xiao Duo hid in the Annihilation Tower, he could still hear the earth-shattering roar outside. He could not help but feel his heart pounding in fear. It seemed that his movements had really been predicted by the other party. Based on the current situation, the enemy must have at least one wise strategist who was in charge of the overall situation. They were likely Chenglong, the kind of people who could strategize and decide the outcome of a battle from 1,000 miles away. Then, the situation would be far too unfavorable. So Xiao Duo frowned and pondered for a long time. If this person was me, what would he think of me? How am I supposed to escape from this person's meticulous scheme? I guessed that he guessed that I guessed that he guessed that I guessed that he guessed that. The cycle would repeat itself, and the third layer of guesses would fall back to the first layer. Who knows if it was me who thought more or the other party who thought less. But now, he could not afford to be entangled. If he were to be entangled by such a legion at the beginning, or if he were to be predicted by the enemy and be restricted at every step, then the only thing that awaited him would be death. If he continued to rush up from here, he would be too big of a target. After the explosion, the enemy would definitely pay more attention to this place. So Xiao Duo thought about it carefully and decided to try to find a way to go back. There were so many explosives over there that he might be able to use them in reverse. As long as he exploded, he would be able to attract attention. And he had the Annihilation Tower in hand. So he had the capital to play this game for a long time. As long as he could drag it out past the most critical time, he would try his best to cause a few disturbances over there to create the illusion that he was charging over there. Then he would go back and continue to go up from here without stopping. He would directly go over Lone Bamboo Mountain and reach the opposite side. The road behind would be much easier then. There had just been an explosion over here. When he came over, he would not have to dig into the ground anymore. There would definitely be detectors in the ground that could detect his tracks after the plan was set. He did not say anything and rushed to the designated location without any hesitation. In the current situation, as long as he could rush out for 5,000 meters, he would be able to reach a height that was extremely cold for ordinary people. Then, this wave would be considered a success. According to the information at hand, Lone Bamboo Mountain was 15,600 meters high. It was the highest peak, and he had rushed all the way up from the foot of the mountain. His current position was already more than 5,000 meters high. If he rushed up another 5,000 meters, he would be 10,000 meters high. and once he reached 10,000 meters, the cultivators below the cloud transformation realm, except for those who practiced extreme yang and extreme cold techniques, would be greatly affected by this temperature. At this level, he should be able to reach 13,000 meters in one more wave. At that time, he would even be able to directly penetrate through. The plan was set. Zhuo Xiaoduo's body turned into energy again and floated out. As expected, there were still many people searching around. He floated up silently. When he reached a height of about 300 meters, he suddenly encountered the detection of the life force field. Although it was only a touch and then retreated, there were already 9 God Imperial bodyguards who had set up the life force field with their own life force field. The force field has been touched. With this warning, countless masters rushed out like a swarm of bees. A huge life force field suddenly opened up. This kind of life force field that required a warrior's life force field to open up was spread out like it was worthless here. Seeing this scene, Zhuo Xiaoduo cursed in his heart. Fuck, this is too inhumane. Life force field can actually be used like this. Aren't you afraid of wasting it? I'm just a kid. It's better for you to save this power to deal with the masters. He didn't dare to go up anymore. He turned parallel and went back to the place where he had rushed up just now. Because of the explosion below, rocks were constantly rolling down from above, and the continuous meteors above his head were also constantly smashing down, causing the originally shaky places to show signs of collapsing. And the UMNO Alliance soldiers who were searching there were all very careful. Even so, there were occasionally people who were directly smashed down because of the collapses. Although the cultivation of the people present didn't care about this, but there was still a lot of swearing and cursing. All the soldiers in the world were the same. The soldiers of the Wizard Alliance were the same as the soldiers of Star Soul Realm. The moment they opened their mouths were filled with vulgarities. They did not repeat the same words for a long time, and their ability to curse was rather impressive. But the places where there was an ambush above, they still didn't destroy it, as usual. So Xiaoduo hurried down. Chapter 965. There were fewer people on this side compared to the other side. They still maintained their energy state and rushed upwards like a whirlwind. After rushing up about 1,000 meters, they encountered the life force field again. However, it was much weaker than the previous encounter. Zhuo Xiaoduo's mind raced. He decided to deactivate his energy state and perform the move of man and sword as one, rushing up 1,300 meters. Zhuo Xiaoduo's fearless charge caused a series of explosions, but all of them sounded behind him. Zhuo Xiaoduo is here. Above, more than 500 military martial artists heard the commotion and rushed over to meet the attack head-on. Each of them looked fierce and determined. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at the other party's posture and instantly realized that they were here to play a game of self-destruction with him. Who am I to fall for such evil tricks? His sword aura surged again, and he suddenly slashed 30 times. In the process of the magnificent sword light, at least 70 to 80 people on the opposite side were silently minced into minced meat. However, Zhuo Xiaoduo roared again, "I'll fight you to the death." After saying that, he leaped up. However, when he was in midair, he turned into energy again and dodged in a roundabout way. He forced the enemy to face him head-on and did not give them the chance to self-destruct. However, Xiaoduo underestimated the sensitivity of military martial artists and their reaction speed. Even though a considerable part of his movement was out of the enemy's calculation and out of the enemy's attack range, there were still some parts that were predicted by the enemy. As soon as he moved forward, he collided head-on with a strong and viscous life force field. So Xiaoduo knew that it was not good. He hurriedly blasted out the mental strength that he had prepared in advance to guard against any unexpected changes. Suddenly, more than 30 UMNO Alliance masters around him spat out blood and fell straight down. The life force field that they had constructed with their life force source was swept away by Zhuo Xiaoduo's strong mental strength and shattered. This was the most direct and purest kind of extreme confrontation. The stronger the victor, the weaker the loser. There were no tricks or luck involved. The experts of the Alliance who had been sent flying were all in a state of unconsciousness. Even if they woke up in the future, it was inevitable that their source would be damaged. Their path of martial arts would no longer have the slightest possibility of moving forward. However, their efforts were not in vain. Instead, they received immediate returns. Two tall Gue Xian realm martial artists had already taken advantage of the moment when Zhuo Xiaoduo's mental energy exploded and retreated, one on the left and one on the right, to entangle him. The faces of these two peak returnants, profound realm cultivators, were filled with determination. Light flickered all over their bodies. That was the sign that they had raised their cultivation to the extreme, ready to self-destruct at any time. So Xiaoduo did not dare to be careless. He immediately used his unorthodox body movements to dodge, not giving the two a chance to get close to him and self-destruct. The spirit cat sword also emitted sword energy, its light flashing as it forced the two mysterious realm experts 10 meters away. You want to use self-destruction to deal with me? You have to have this opportunity first. The two mysterious realm experts' faces showed a trace of determination. The two of them did not have the opportunity to self-destruct. Suddenly, the two of them let out a long howl and rushed over with all their might. Zhuo Xiaoduo's heart was filled with shock as he quickly dodged. The spirit cat sword's sharpness had already chopped off half of Gue Xian expert's body, but this person was truly valiant. With his remaining hand, he firmly held onto the spirit cat sword's edge. On his hand, there was a pair of strange gloves that were extremely tough. At this juncture, they had successfully entangled the spirit cat sword. Heavenly Witch Copper, Zhuo Xiaoduo roared. The gloves of the opponent were actually made of heavenly Witch Copper wire. No wonder they were so tough. Boom! Chi chi chi! The sword energy exploded again. The spirit cat sword displayed its might and instantly crushed the hand and the gloves. However, the other person was already within 3 meters of him. Zhuo Xiaoduo roared and continued to retreat. The sword light flashed and cut the body of the person in half from his lower abdomen. This sword had its own secret. Even if he was determined to self-destruct, he still had to have the Dantian to self-destruct. Zhuo Xiaoduo's sword had already destroyed the Dantian of the other mysterious realm expert's lower abdomen. Even if the other person still had the strength to attack, he was destined to not be able to self-destruct. This was a wonderful way to deal with self-destruction. It had to be said that Zhuo Xiaoduo's way of dealing with the situation was perfect. Not only did he kill 2 people, but he also completely eliminated the possibility of self-destruction. However, to Zhuo Xiaoduo's surprise, the other person's Dantian was already destroyed, and he only had one last breath of Yuanqi left. There was no hope of self-destruction. However, he still took advantage of this opportunity to grab the spirit cat sword with both hands and charged over. Zhuo Xiaoduo's heterodox body movement technique was used again. The moment his wrist shook violently, the person's body had already turned into minced meat and flew out. However, the 2 mysterious realm experts had sacrificed their lives to create a binding effect. The surrounding area was already surrounded by 50 people, so Xiaoduo knew that things were not going well. Just as he was about to fly up into the sky above Lone Bamboo Mountain, an order had already been given: explode. The 50 people who were charging forward in the circle all stopped abruptly and turned to self-destruction at the same time. They didn't even say a single word. 50 people had collectively self-destructed. Damn, so Xiaoduo groaned. At the moment when the white light flashed, he suddenly flashed into the Tower of Annihilation and disappeared into the void. Boom! Countless mountain rocks flew up and almost flew hundreds of miles away. Half of Lone Bamboo Mountain was directly destroyed by this shocking explosion. An even larger mushroom cloud rose into the air, rolling and rolling as it soared into the sky. Countless Alliance soldiers raised their hands and saluted at the same time with tears in their eyes. Lei Jiuxiao and the army commander both flew up at the same time, because the mountain peak below them had already collapsed from the explosion. The two of them also had tears in their eyes, the rims of their eyes red. The 50 brothers had all turned into a loud rumble in an instant. Zhuo, is he dead? The army commander gritted his teeth. I'm afraid he's not dead yet. Lei Jiuxiao sighed and said, although the two pinnacle Geishian experts successfully tied down Zhuo and gave us a chance, they did not really make Zhuo reveal any openings. Besides the fact that Zhuo's sword skills are superb and his quick reflexes, more importantly, the sword in Zhuo's hand is really a rare divine sword, unparalleled in its sharpness. Even the 2 pairs of sky witchcraft copper wire gloves that I gave were not able to trap Zhuo's sword. This is really a big mistake. However, Zhuo must not be feeling well either. Even if there is that Tower of Annihilation, with the current situation, withstanding such an explosion at such a close distance is still difficult. Lei Jiuxiao immediately ordered, everyone, use your life force field to sense the point of self-destruction of our brothers, within a radius of 2,000 meters. Yes, at the moment when the 50 brothers sacrificed their lives for a righteous cause, no one cared about their life force origin energy. Countless warriors of the Umno Alliance all had tears in their eyes as they tried their best to release their life force origin energy. They connected with the life force origin energy of the brothers beside them, linking with each other continuously, forming a huge, inescapable net that covered all directions, covering everything. Lei Jiuxiao focused on the search in the field, but his face gradually turned pale as he sighed. This time, he had already put in a lot of effort, intending to finish the job in one fell swoop, but he still did not manage to kill Zhuo. At this point in the battle, the elite strength of his army had been used up, and there was no more ability to stop Zhuo. At least, it was impossible to organize another self-destruction of such a scale and such a powerful lineup. The suicide squads were ultimately the minority, and to be able to form such a team was already too much. Zhuo fell into the Tower of Annihilation and spat out a mouthful of blood, his face as pale as paper. This was the first time he had been so seriously injured since he started cultivating. This is really, too. Zhuo sighed with a pale face, but he still resisted the urge to curse and murmured, too heroic. Such an earth-shattering explosion. It's breathtaking. These warriors of the Umno Alliance had fought with him in such a heroic manner, filling Zhuo's heart with admiration. Against such an enemy, no matter what, he could not curse. Cursing such a heroic warrior was simply an insult to himself. This time, it was fortunate that he had dodged quickly, and because he had seen that the situation was not good, he had not tried to collect the rings of the 2 Xian returning martial artists. If he had been just a little bit greedy, the self-destruction of these 50 people, even if he had the Tower of Annihilation, would have been enough to kill him in one fell swoop. That was the self-detonation of 50 experts above the royal god realm, the ultimate self-detonation of their lives and souls. Too ruthless. Astral souls are not the only ones with heroes, and astral souls are not the only ones with heroic warriors. Such an enemy is really worthy of respect. Zhuo's heart was filled with emotion. After experiencing this personally, he felt more and more the enormous pressure that the front line of the Sun Moon Pass had to bear. Because what he was facing was only a second-grade army, nothing more. And it was not a first-grade army that had been fighting at the Sun Moon Pass all year round. For a second-rate army to be able to achieve such a feat, how could Zhuo not be shocked? Feeling the overwhelming pain in his internal organs, Zhuo hurriedly took out medicine and swallowed it. Then he consecutively drank 2 bottles of spirit-restoring water and used the best quality jade of astral souls to cultivate and heal his injuries. He swallowed a few heavenly treasured fruits. His complexion rapidly improved at a speed visible to the naked eye. I might as well take this opportunity to cultivate, and when I break through to the god reigning level, my chances of survival will be higher. Zhuo deeply felt the inadequacy of his own strength. If only I could break through to the sky realm now. I don't know if Nian Mao and the others would know that I encountered this here. Sigh. Fortunately, the old man was looking for me and not Nian Mao. Otherwise, Nian Mao would definitely be in danger. Zhou Xiaoduo's face was filled with joy. Nian Mao doesn't have the Tower of Annihilation. This is the true meaning of a battle. Compared to this experience, the previous battles were simply child's play, like children playing house. Zhou Xiaoduo stopped thinking about nonsense and quickly entered a state of cultivation where he forgot about everything around him. Just as Zhou Xiaoduo was being taken away by Lei Changtian, that in Fenghai City, Fang Yinhua had nothing to do. As usual, he sat in the auction house and used poker cards to read his fortune. Chapter 966. Fang Yinhua was an old bachelor. Because he was afraid of implicating himself, he didn't even find a wife. Therefore, there was no need for him to celebrate the new year. Furthermore, with his status, it wasn't appropriate for him to go to someone else's house to celebrate the new year. It's all spades and plum blossoms. This is somewhat unlucky. Fang Yinhua pretended to read his fortune. In reality, he didn't believe it at all. He was just playing around to pass time. Suddenly, a large limousine stopped at the entrance. A faint, powerful aura caused Fang Yinhua to raise his head in surprise. It can't be that they're here to look for me, right? Then, a middle-aged man, a beautiful woman, two elderly people, and two children walked out of the limousine. Looking at the signboard of Badodo Auction House, the middle-aged man stood there in a daze for a while. After tidying his clothes, he walked in. After interrogating him, the staff on duty brought him in and saw Fang Yinhua. "Are you Brother Fang?" The middle-aged man cupped his fists respectfully. Fang Yinhua's back was wet. His scalp was about to explode. The aura of the person in front of him was so powerful. I'm about to reach the returning profound realm. In front of this person, I'm actually completely suppressed. Could it be that he's a Sky Realm expert? What's the matter? What business could a Sky Realm powerhouse have with me? Aren't you overestimating me? May I ask who you are? Fang Yinhua composed himself. I'm Guan Shanha, under the orders of young Master Zhua. I'm here to report to Brother Fang. The middle-aged man took out a letter and respectfully handed it to Fang Yinhua. Brother Fang, please take a look. Fang Yinhua instantly focused all his attention. He raised his guard and his entire cultivation base. A wisp of chi had already locked onto the window. Behind the window, there was an alley. There were 8 turns in the alley, and each of them had a hidden door. As long as he made a turn or two, he would be able to enter the escape tunnel that he had dug out during this period of time. He would be able to escape quickly and escape with his life, but then he condensed his aura and took the letter. But when he opened the letter and read it, he immediately felt relieved. On the letter, it said, "No, I've assigned you an assistant come bodyguard. Many. The inscription was a strangely shaped knife. After he finished drawing the knife, he seemed to have accidentally wiped it, causing the knife to look a little blurry. After Fang Yinhua read the letter, he felt completely relieved. He then laughed out loud. "So it's Brother Guan. Brother Guan, you've graced us with your presence. Apologies for not going out to welcome you. Little brother. Ha. I'm used to being cautious. Ha ha ha." Guan Shanha smiled bitterly. "You were about to jump out of the window just now. Did you really think I didn't see it?" However, he naturally could not mention this part. Guan Shanha was very clear about his own situation. From now on, the lives of his family were undoubtedly tied to this fatty. Zhou Xiaoduo was still worried about him, so he sent him to this extremely cautious and wretched guy. Rather than calling it an inspection, it would be more accurate to call it surveillance. To put it simply, it was the so-called probation period, the internship period. Whether or not he could stay and work for a long time would depend on his subsequent performance. "Then I will have to rely on Brother Fang in the future," Guan Shanha said humbly and respectfully. You're welcome. Fang Yinhua was overjoyed. He did not expect that he would have a Sky Realm expert as his bodyguard. This level had soared all of a sudden. This happiness had really come too suddenly. Are these Brother Guan's family members? Yes, they are. These are my parents. These are my father-in-law and mother-in-law. This is my wife, and these are my children. Guanshana introduced them one by one and smiled. I moved my family to Fenghai. In the future, I will be relying on Brother Fong's protection. Fong Inua was even more delighted. Brother Guan, you're too polite. No problem, no problem. Brother Guan, do you have any requests for accommodation? How about this? There are 2 empty villas near the villa I'm staying in. The space is quite spacious. Brother Guan, you can stay there. If you find another place you like in the future, you can find another place. Won't I be disturbing Brother Fong? Not at all. If Brother Guan has no objections, then listen to me. Fong Inua was very enthusiastic. When he bought the villas, he bought 10 of them in one go. All of them were well decorated. In the beginning, he even took turns living in them every day to ensure his safety. Now that Guanshana was here, he had a Sky Realm expert as his bodyguard. Naturally, he had to settle the villas as close to him as possible. He had only caught a glimpse of Guanshana earlier, so he didn't take a closer look. Now that he took a closer look, he realized that not only was Guanshana a Sky Soar Realm expert, but his father-in-law also possessed a frightening cultivation. Even if he wasn't as strong as Guanshana, he was still at the peak of the returning Profound Realm. However, his 5 colors were slightly uneven, as if he had suffered some internal injuries that had yet to recover. Not to mention Guanshana. If this old man wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. Compared to his life, a villa was nothing. Money was just a worldly possession that was not worth mentioning. All these years, he had paid tribute to young Master Zhua. If converted into money, it would be worth tens of billions. What Master Fong lacked the most now was money. The entire Fenghai city was his private bank. Whatever he wanted, he would just steal it. Under Fong Inua's enthusiastic insistence, Guanshana and his family finally settled down. Then, Fong Inua began to arrange a banquet to welcome them. In short, it was an extremely luxurious and sincere reception. While they were drinking, Fong Inua jokingly said, "This is young Master Zhua's biggest logistics base. Young Master Zhua has always been very attentive to this place. When he has nothing to do, he would come here to inspect it. Also, the head butler comes here almost every day. That's only because it's the new year. If it's a normal day." Fong Inua's words sounded very normal. However, he did not need to use a hammer to sound the drums. Guanshana immediately became alert. Fong Inua was trying to warn him and show him the importance of his position. He could not help but be even more careful. In short, both the host and the guest were happy and harmonious. Everyone was still busy celebrating the new year. As for Zhua Xiaoduo, who had not shown his face for a few days, almost no one noticed him. Only Li Qinglong was puzzled. Where did Zhua Xiaoduo go? He had not seen him for a few days, and he even missed the New Year's red packet. Did he go back to his hometown? Hence, he gave Ruoyin a call and found out that Zhua Xiaoduo had indeed returned to Phoenix City a few days ago. He even had a meal at Ruoyin's house. After confirming this news, Li Qinglong could not help but feel relieved. It seemed that Zhua was really not in Fenghai now. He just did not know if he was using this as an excuse to avoid the boss red packet. Well, according to a certain someone's stingy personality, this was not only very possible, it was very likely. Li Qinglong let go of his worries and focused on his cultivation. Previously, he had just broken through to the god-reigning realm and had time to stabilize his realm. Now that it was a critical moment, he had to work hard to improve. In between his cultivation, he would occasionally guide the work of Zhua Shuai's company, think about the arrangements of his brothers, and also check on the war situation and study the direction of the war. On this day, Li Qinglong browsed the internet as usual. As usual, he jumped over the wall to check the UMNO Alliance and the Tao League. However, at this moment, an accident occurred. The process of jumping over the wall at the Tao League was as easy as usual, but the website at the UMNO Alliance could not be opened no matter how hard he tried. After checking around, it turned out that there was an attack that caused the server to completely collapse. Now, it was under repair. Li Qinglong did not pay much attention to this. After all, things like network collapses were very common on the internet. Cultivate. Li Qinglong entered his palace again. At this moment, Xiang Bing was also cultivating inside. Hence, Li Qinglong stepped forward and, without caring about anything else, first practiced the dual cultivation divine skill of 56,000 words. Then, naturally, the two of them were so tired that they felt like mud and had a good sleep. Then, they began to cultivate in the ordinary sense. On the other side, Yu Moyin and Dugianer joined forces. After fighting with this demonic beast that was almost beyond the Demon King level for 4 days, they finally killed it. Then, they found a mine full of Astral Souls Jade in the demonic beast's cave. Normally, these Astral Souls Jade mines could be considered a considerable profit. However, when the two of them were digging the mine wantonly, they accidentally discovered a cave of an ancient almighty. The two of them were pleasantly surprised. Side by side, they entered to explore. On the way back, Li Zhongming also encountered a fortuitous encounter. The process was comparable to the treatment of a protagonist in a novel. On the way back, he encountered several king-level demonic beasts fighting. Out of curiosity, he snuck in to observe. Then, he saw 6 king-level demonic beasts fighting desperately. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. However, he did not know why. Finally, in the midst of the chaotic battle, a mountain collapsed. Suddenly, a ray of light shone out. As for the 6 demonic beasts, although their combat strength had been greatly reduced because of the battle, they did not suffer any fatal injuries and still had their foundation. However, when the light suddenly shone on them, they swayed for a while and fell to the ground one after another and fell asleep. For safety's sake, Li Zhongming stayed far away from the place where the demonic beasts fought. He was at least a few thousand meters away, but even so, he was still affected by the light. However, he had the dream divine technique in his body, so he was more resistant to the light. He barely held on and did not fall asleep. After a few revolutions, he rushed over to take a look at the source of the light. He found that the source of the light was a small bell. The moment Li Zhongming laid his eyes on the bell, he felt that his spirit was shaken. How could he not know that this was a rare treasure? Moreover, it was quite compatible with his dream divine technique. He could not help but be overjoyed and quickly put it away. Looking at the 6 king-level demonic beasts, they were still sleeping soundly. Naturally, he raised his hand and slashed down. I'm rich. Chapter 967. Shangjing. Zhua Xiaoyan arrived and destroyed the 3rd prince's mansion. However, she still couldn't find Jun Changkong. She didn't know where he went either. She only felt frustrated. How could he run away so fast? I'm so angry. She was summoned by the boss of the 9 Heavens Pavilion. Jun Changkong has been grounded by the imperial family. This incident involves the military and the imperial family. In my opinion, why don't we be more magnanimous? Be more magnanimous? Zhua Xiaoyan didn't want to give up. However, she didn't dare to disobey her boss. However, he still brought it up. If there are any other related movements, then it means that they are seeking death. I will definitely kill them. No, I won't. I promise you that if there are any more incidents, you can do whatever you want. The boss smiled bitterly. Now, Jun Changkong was really grounded. He was even sent to a place that even he didn't know. It would be difficult for Jun Changkong to come out and cause trouble or meet him again. However, the imperial family made a prompt decision this time. Zhua Xiaoyan returned to the spirit reigning area unhappily. As the boss, she called everyone for a meeting. From now on, pay close attention to the 3rd prince's mansion and all his confidants, subordinates, and relatives. If there are any suspicious incidents, report it immediately. Zhua Xiaoyan gave the order. Ahem, boss. Someone stood up. Monitoring the imperial family is beyond our authority. We need to. Zhua Xiaoyan glanced at them coldly. A cold aura filled the air. First, I didn't say monitor. I said, pay attention. Do you understand? Who asked you to monitor? Shouldn't you pay more attention? Second, who allowed you to speak when I gave the order? She waved her hand and a cold aura spread. The two of them immediately turned into ice sculptures. They were frozen there, dumbfounded. Does anyone else have any opinions about paying attention to the 3rd prince's mansion? Zhua Xiaoyan said indifferently. If you do, just say it. No, everyone said in unison. They all looked at the two fellows sympathetically. They estimated that this cold would last for at least 2 days. These two fellows would have a hard time. Big Sister obviously wants to give the third prince a hard time, and you actually came out to sing a different tune. If I don't freeze you, who will I freeze? What's more, this word game is well played. We're just paying attention. Ha! There's been a lot of work to do recently. Everyone, please do your best. Zhua Xiaoyan walked away expressionlessly. Everyone understood tacitly. Yes, I will definitely do my best to monitor the third prince. I don't want to be frozen. Zhua Xiaoyan went back to her room and took out her phone to call with Xiao Duo, but the call did not go through. However, she did not think much of it. After all, this kind of situation was very common. Anyone who had the Tower of Annihilation and a lot of cultivation resources would be able to cultivate in seclusion all year round. Of course, she could not reach him through her phone. After leaving the usual message, he went into seclusion to prepare to break through to the returning profound realm. He had to speed up. He couldn't let the puppy catch up to him. This was his bottom line, and he absolutely could not break it. That's somewhere in Shangjing. A message was sent out again. The UMNO Alliance received a secret report again and translated it according to the secret method. The Star of Calamity has arrived. With the protection of the Crepe Myrtle Star, it shows that there's an expert by his side. The Heavenly Kings are no match for him. If you try your best, even the Heavenly Kings will be in danger. It was still a drawing of a white cloud. It was obvious that this spy was hinting that no matter what, they could not let Zhua Xiaoduo go back. Their desire to kill Zhua Xiaoduo was so strong. Seeing the secret report, the few Heavenly Kings immediately broke out in cold sweat. That Zhua Xiaoduo was actually protected by someone. More importantly, the Heavenly Kings were no match for him. In other words, the person protecting Zhua Xiaoduo was actually a Grand Magus? Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? Fortunately, they did not send Fei Tian. Otherwise, no, this was too big. They had to report it. If the other party had such a person, there had to be a Grand Magus in charge. But now, all the Grand Magi had gone into seclusion. Well, there seemed to be one more who had not gone into seclusion. The Heavenly Kings looked at each other. You go. No, you go. I'm not going. Rock, paper, scissors. The Heavenly Kings' faces were pale. Although it was a place of their own people, that place, they really did not dare to go. After an intense round of rock, paper, scissors, a Heavenly King was finally defeated. He looked as if his parents had died. I'm too unlucky. Thus, this Heavenly King gathered his courage and went to the Poison Hall. This was the place of the Grand Magi. Almost no one was allowed to come close. Within 1,000 miles, there was not even a living mouse, let alone a human. If there was no such urgent matter, this Heavenly King would not be willing to come here even if he had applied for the final battle at the Sun-Moon Pass. Although there was no danger, it was too terrifying. Sir, I have an important matter to discuss with you. Please. A hole opened in the poison array and let this Heavenly King in. What's the matter? Sir now, in such a situation, do you think you can? This Heavenly King was trembling with fear. He was afraid that a poisonous fog would spurt out as he spoke. Hee. I'll go take a look. Roar. The Grand Magi was very excited and surprised that there was an unforeseen event. Fuck, there's finally something for me to do. After all, there's something to do. I've really been bored out of my mind during this period of time. Previously, they didn't let me go to the Starlight Mountain Range Ruins trial. They also didn't let me go to the meeting of the Grand Magi. Those fellows also secretly hid it from me. Now, there's finally something happening in the UMNO Alliance, and they even took the initiative to look for me. If I don't go now, when will I go? Roar. I'm going. The Grand Magi impatiently turned into a ball of black light and rushed into the sky. The Heavenly King who was reporting outside was dumbfounded. My lord, I haven't finished my report yet. Why are you leaving? You can leave. But if I go out? Fuck, how am I going to get out of this poison array? That lone bamboo mountain. Lei Jiuxiao and the others were making their last line of defense. Even though Lei Jiuxiao already knew in his heart that the army he was in no longer had the strength to stop Zhua Xiaoduo, he still had to make one last effort. especially after many fruitless searches. Lei Jiuxiao's heart was already certain. Zhuo Xiaoduo was definitely not dead. He was just waiting for a suitable time, or perhaps he was in a hiding place to recover his strength. Lei Jiuxiao was very confident that it was impossible for Zhuo Xiaoduo to not be injured at all when 500 people self-destructed. Even if he was a peak Skysoar cultivator, under such circumstances, he would at least be seriously injured. I've already tried my best to overestimate Zhuo Xiaoduo. I've taken out all the forces that can self-destruct. If you're still not injured at all, then the so-called seal now is just a piece of cake for you. You can leave easily. But if you're not injured, why haven't you come out for so long? You should know that the time after the self-destruction is the easiest time for you to break through the seal. Therefore, you must have been injured. But whether Zhuo Xiaoduo is seriously injured or not, it's hard to say. Are you confident? Yu Meng asked. Not at all. Lei Jiuxiao sighed and said, I have already sent out the news, asking all the experts who are hunting Zhuo Xiaoduo to go to the lone bamboo city and wait. I have also informed the 6 armies that are currently forming an encirclement that Zhuo Xiaoduo might break through our defense line, asking them to prepare. Even the self-destruction of 50 of our men of sacrifice couldn't kill Zhuo Xiaoduo. With the scattered forces sent by the various clans, it's even more impossible to stop Zhuo Xiaoduo. Now, our greatest hope lies on the 6 armies. Lei Jiuxiao sighed deeply. His face was filled with unconcealable disappointment and dejection. This was the greatest merit, and it was already destined to brush past him. That can't be right. That's what Xiaoduo is actually that strong? Yu Meng was in disbelief. Let's wait and see, Lei Jiuxiao said. As long as Zhuo Xiaoduo dares to appear in our encirclement, breaking through Lone Bamboo Mountain will be a piece of cake. There won't be any obstacles. He turned to look at Yu Meng and said, although this is a huge blow to our morale. General Yu, if Zhuo Xiaoduo appears again, General Yu, you should command from afar. If Zhuo Xiaoduo gets killed while breaking through the encirclement, it would be a real loss for our army. Yu Meng took a deep breath. His face flushed red, but he thought carefully and said, all right, I'll listen to you. Don't be unconvinced. Lei Jiuxiao patted Yu Meng's shoulder. When dealing with such a peerless genius, no matter how careful you are, it's only right. This kind of person is destined to be the chosen one. Even if he dies prematurely, he won't die without paying a price. The more talented he is, the more people will have to be buried with him when he dies. Not only will they have to be buried with him, but they will also have to seek revenge after he dies. This will be extremely shocking and cruel. Lei Jiuxiao laughed bitterly and said, why is Zhuo Xiaoduo the number 1 person on the human token? This was the biggest price that could be foreseen. Zhuo Xiaoduo wasn't famous before, but when his name appeared on the human token, he surpassed everyone and became a number 1 person. The reason for this, to put it bluntly, is extremely terrifying. This ambush, we planned layer after layer and exhausted all our manpower, but we still couldn't kill Zhuo Xiaoduo as we wished. It looks like we didn't make a big contribution, and it's a pity, but from another point of view, I'm also relieved. General, think about it. If Zhuo Xiaoduo really dies in our hands, will the Lei family be able to withstand the revenge that will follow? It's still uncertain. But the other direct beneficiary, General, you can't possibly withstand it. Lei Jiuxiao laughed bitterly. Yu Meng was shocked to the point of being dumbfounded. Even the Lei family may not be able to withstand it. General Lei, are you joking? Chapter 968. Lei Jiuxiao shook his head. Joking? Has the general ever seen me make a joke? If I say I don't have the confidence, then I really don't have the confidence. Even if our Lei family can withstand it, we will have to pay a considerable price, a price that will hurt the entire family. He pondered, then slowly said, after all, this is the first person of the human favor order. He originally wanted to explain the meaning behind the surnames, but after looking at Yu Meng, he did not say anything. Yu Meng's current position, current status, current cultivation was not at the stage where he knew this surname. He was not qualified. He was not qualified in any of the aspects. The most important thing was that this person was not absolutely reliable, especially his mouth. Once the words that should not be said were spread out, many people who were about to participate in the hunt would not dare to come. Time passed little by little. It was noon, so Xiao Duo still had not come out. Lei Jiuxiao did not dare to lower his guard in the slightest. He raised his head to look at the sun. It was already high up in the sky, so he pulled Yu Meng and moved another 500 meters to the side, making way for the path to the peak. He remembered the information about Zhua Xiaoduo very clearly. Zhua Xiaoduo cultivated the flaming sun scripture. At noon, his battle strength would be slightly stronger than usual. Perhaps in the eyes of many people, they would overlook this slight difference, because this slight difference was not worth much. But in the eyes of those who had a thorough understanding of power, they would definitely not overlook this slight difference, especially now that they were 8,000 meters above sea level. Sometimes, a slight change in temperature was enough to change the entire situation in such an environment. As a disciple of one of the top families in the UMNO alliance, Lei Jiuxiao was naturally familiar with this theory. He definitely would not, and did not dare to, be careless in the slightest. Noon, 12 o'clock sharp. When the sun shone the brightest, the snow was dazzling because of the light shining brightly. The entire mountain peak was like an illusion. A faint figure suddenly appeared. The moment this figure appeared, a magnificent scarlet glow erupted. Flames soared into the sky, and the heat instantly swept out, enveloping the nearby, snow-covered mountain slope. That faint figure appeared in a powerful manner and charged forward. The snow melted, and the vegetation instantly withered. In the blink of an eye, he had already advanced 300 meters. The blood-curdling screams almost became a series of sounds. Along the way, all the UMNO Alliance martial artists were burned into charcoal, their bodies burning as they tumbled down. Seeing this, the 7 divine royal martial officers attacked at the same time. However, Xiaoduo did not dodge at all, nor did he use his sword. Using only his bare hands, he charged into the encirclement of the 7 people like a ball of fire. With a loud explosion, the 7 people screamed in pain, their bodies on fire, flying in 7 different directions. This momentary block did not stop Xiaoduo at all, and he continued to break through the distance of more than 1,000 meters. Not enough. The pressure was not enough. What he wanted was an explosive breakthrough under extreme pressure. Then, at the moment of breakthrough, he would use the pressure to achieve the connection between man and heaven. His meridians would break through, and he would absorb the power of the enemy's attack. Then, he would rush forward on the path of divine royal martial artist. The 7 divine royal martial officers in front of him were far from the level of power that could make him feel the pressure. However, it did not matter. Above him, more than 100 UMNO Alliance soldiers had already appeared. They rushed forward together and launched a death charge towards him without fear of death. Xiaoduo roared, and the blazing flames on his body expanded another 10 meters. He did not dodge, but met them head-on. As soon as he came into contact with them, a series of blood-curdling screams rang out. Everyone's hair and clothes were on fire the moment they came into contact with him. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of countless spiritual forces colliding rang out almost continuously. At this moment, Xiaoduo also felt the long-lost sense of oppression. It was a heavy feeling that was mixed with blood, wrapped in cruelty, and wrapped in the crisis of life and death. Xiaoduo raised his head and roared. The power of the Flaming Sun Sutra, which had already reached its limit, rose sharply again. A gust of clear air appeared and rushed to the 9 heavens. It was a magnificent spectacle and captivating. With another loud boom, a huge whirlpool quickly formed above Zhua Xiaoduo's head. The magnificent power from the sun increased several times at this moment. The light was unprecedentedly bright and dazzling as it rushed down and focused on Zhua Xiaoduo's head. The surrounding spiritual energy also gathered in the direction of a tsunami. All these strange phenomena were completed in the blink of an eye. Lei Jiuxiao, who was watching and commanding from the side, suddenly changed his expression. He pulled Yu Meng and flew to the other side. Run, leave this place as soon as possible. We have really encountered a monster this time. His eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His face was full of disbelief. There was also a sense of loss after being shocked. How could this be? How could there be such a monster in this world? Commander Yu Meng was also dumbfounded. There really is a ferocious person who can break through in the middle of a battle. This is too much of a monster. I have never seen this before. Lei Jiuxiao could no longer be bothered to talk to Yu Meng. He ordered as he ran, "Disperse, disperse. Don't block him anymore. Let him pass. Let's with Xiaoduo pass." At this juncture, they had no choice but to disperse. Since the other party dared to choose such a time to make a breakthrough, and was not afraid of being disturbed and going berserk, there was only one possibility. He could absorb all the attack power and convert it into his own power at the moment of his breakthrough, and convert all the attacking power into power to break through. After breaking through in one go, he could use the attack to vent out the residual power of the attack. If that really happened, none of the people who were besieging him would be able to survive. Lei Jiuxiao's order was extremely timely, and his decision was correct. If they could completely follow Lei Jiuxiao's order, although they wouldn't be able to stop Sui Xiaoduo from breaking out of the encirclement, the effect of his breakthrough would be greatly reduced. If they went forward to fight now, it would be a meaningless sacrifice. But now, at least for Sui Xiaoduo, it was too late, because he had already made all the preparations in the Tower of Annihilation. He had suppressed his state to the point where he could no longer suppress it for the 56th time. He had only rushed out when his inner Yuan was about to go berserk. The moment he came out, he came into contact with the spiritual energy of the outside world. The spiritual energy in his body had completely gone berserk. With another loud bang in the sky, a shadow seemed to appear. It was very illusory and unreal, but it was clear and fleeting. However, this scene clearly fell into the eyes of Lei Jiuxiao, who was not very far away. He was instantly dumbfounded and stunned on the spot. That's a divine consciousness projection. It's actually a divine consciousness projection. So Xiaoduo broke through to the God reigning level. But how could it be a God reigning level? How could he stop at the God reigning level? The divine consciousness projection was a very illusory thing. Only when a warrior's divine consciousness was strong enough would it appear when he was breaking through and under the condition of heaven-man connection. However, this kind of situation was extremely rare. Generally speaking, one would need to reach the God reigning level before they could start to come into contact with divine consciousness and control it. However, this was only a theory. In reality, more than 80% of God-reigning level martial artists did not know what divine consciousness was. In fact, there were quite a number of Sky Realm martial artists who were at the pinnacle of the Sky Realm and breaking through to the Tao integration stage. They might not even be able to form a complete divine consciousness projection like Zhuo Xiao was. Zhuo Xiaoduo's divine consciousness projection was not only clear on his face, but even his hair, clothes, and shoes could be seen clearly. Even if a Sky Realm martial artist were to break through to the Tao integration stage, a divine consciousness projection of this level would still be shocking. However, this was not the real reason for Lei Jiuxiao's shock. What truly shocked him was that Zhuo Xiaoduo's cultivation had just broken through to the God reigning level. Didn't that mean that Zhuo Xiaoduo was only at the pinnacle of the cloud transformation stage? As a pinnacle of the cloud transformation stage, he could easily kill a pinnacle of the profound returning stage cultivator. Two profound returning stage cultivators working together could not even self-detonate. They could not even harass him. After that, 50 people surrounded him and self-detonated. A mere pinnacle of the cloud transformation stage was able to escape unscathed and break through after a short period of concealment. What kind of godly maneuver was this? What kind of monster was Zhuo Xiaoduo? Was he still human? Under Lei Jiuxiao's shocked gaze, Zhuo Xiaoduo's divine consciousness projection disappeared in a flash. Following that, a gust of clear air rushed out from the top of his head. In that instant, the strength of his attack increased by several folds. His posture was still the same as before, and his attack power was still the same as before. However, the attribute of his strength had undergone a fundamental change. When the spirit cat sword reappeared, its magnificent sword light had turned into a jade color. It became even more profound and transparent. The moment the 100-meter sword light swept across, several people screamed and fell to the ground. As for the spiritual energy that was originally attacking Zhuo, the moment Zhuo broke through the formation of the spiritual energy vortex, it was immediately absorbed by the vortex. When it was spat out again, it had been completely transformed into Zhuo's unstoppable attack. At this moment, the 100 people who participated in the attack, in addition to the 30 to 40 people who joined in later, felt as if their chests had been hit heavily. At the same time, their divine consciousnesses were being attacked. The pain was unbearable, as if their heads were about to split open. In an instant, everyone's faces were as pale as paper. Zhuo let out a long howl. The spirit cat's sword was waved to its heart's content. The dense sword light shone brightly. His advance was like cutting melons and vegetables. He rushed out a distance of 2,500 meters in a straight line. Behind him, there were broken limbs and broken bodies everywhere. Zhuo's body was like an illusion as he moved continuously in the air. The few experts who flew over to attack were all slashed back by his sword. Another long howl. Zhuo was tall and straight-bodied, stood on a protruding boulder at the top of the mountain. On the blade of the sword in his hand, a line of blood flowed down. Small red holes appeared on the snow under his feet. Chapter 969. Zhuo took a deep breath. His heart was exceptionally calm. The excitement of a breakthrough that he had anticipated did not appear. Instead, he was completely at peace. Because of the breakthrough, his sea of consciousness was rapidly expanding by, and Zhuo swam happily within the sea of consciousness. They swam forward along the borders of the sea of consciousness. With the help of these crazy waves, the sea of consciousness expanded wherever the two little fellows swam. He felt the power coursing through his body. His originally extremely violent, true spirit chi was transformed into his meridians because of the sudden transformation. It was like a boundless and bottomless river that continued to swim calmly. However, Zhuo only needed to think about it. With just a thought, he could make that seemingly calm flow of water explode with a majestic force that could shake the heavens. So Zhuo, who was standing on a large rock, turned his head and looked into the distance. He stared at Lei Jiuxiao and Yu Ming, who were 3,000 meters away. His gaze was like cold lightning. It was extremely menacing. Lei Jiuxiao and Yu Ming were clearly 3,000 meters away, but they both felt as if their cheeks had been abruptly pricked by burning needles. This was a pain that originated from the depths of their souls. It was extremely unbearable. Brothers Wa, you have already broken through all the blockades that we have set up. You are truly impressive. Brothers Wa, your journey will have nothing to do with us. Lei Jiuxiao smiled faintly and saluted from afar. He was refined and courteous. I am Lei Jiuxiao. I wish Brothers Wa a safe and safe journey. Zhuo stood on the large rock. He could feel that the sky was almost filled with flying Tao integration cultivators' divine intents. His eyes flickered as he said calmly, Lei Jiuxiao. Not a bad plan. His previous 3 moves had probably been calculated by this person. If not for the fact that his absolute combat strength was insufficient and that he had the hidden trump card of the space-destroying tower, he would have been in deep trouble this time. The Umno Alliance, which had always believed in its tyrannical strength, actually had such an intelligent person. They were indeed a galaxy of talents. Zhuo looked at Lei Jiuxiao. Killing intent involuntarily radiated from his body. Brothers Wa, you flatter me. Lei Jiuxiao said regretfully, I have already done my best, but it was all in vain. I was unable to keep Brothers Wa here. Xiaoduo laughed heartily. He pointed with his finger and said, "It's easy to keep me here. One or two of the people up there can come down. Isn't that enough?" Muffled groans could be heard from above. Clearly, there were already many Sky Soar Realm and even Dao integration stage experts gathered in the sky. Haha, seniors, there's no need to snort. It's been hard on all of you to escort me all this way. So Xiaoduo laughed and said, "Now that I've reached the highest peak of Lone Bamboo Mountain, I'm looking down at the mountains and rivers, and the scenery is picturesque. Suddenly, I'm in the mood to recite a poem." The wind was chilly high up in the sky, but Xiaoduo was determined to provoke them. Naturally, he would resort to any means necessary. This bit of cold wind had no effect on him at all. "I used to be frozen into a popsicle by Nyin Yin Cat every day. Do you think I'm afraid of this cold?" It had to be said that's what Xiaoduo was a little proud. It was the kind of pride that said, "You don't understand my pride. If I could be frozen by Nyin Yin Cat every day, can you?" With this thought, he became more and more pleased with himself. His poetic mood was getting out of hand. Since he had already reached this point, how could he not be more unbridled? Just as everyone's eyes were about to spit fire, Xiaoduo struck a pose that made people want to beat him up 3,600 times. He slowly recited, "When I first entered the mountains of the Umno Alliance, the roars of dragons and tigers filled the sky. With the Qing Feng sword in my hand, I stepped on the highest peak of the Wu people. With 1 against 10,000, I have nothing to fear. My heroic spirit is in my chest. Crossing 80,000 miles of the Umno Alliance is Master Zhu's #1 achievement." The sound of gnashing teeth could be heard continuously. How did this kid compose a poem? "I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go down and beat this little bastard to death." Someone in the clouds was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. "Take a break. If I could go down, I would have done so long ago." Another person's face turned purple with anger. "Haven't you heard that the Dao Alliance lost a heavenly king because of this little bastard? And it was Patriarch Flood who did it himself. Do you dare to break the rules? Do you dare to break the rules set by Patriarch Flood? If you want to go down, I don't object. But I definitely won't allow our Umno Alliance to slap our own Patriarch in the face. I'd rather wait for this kid to soar into the sky and challenge him to a duel. That's right. It's because of this. Fuck. I'm so angry. I used my inner vision just now. My liver is swollen from anger." A black-robed Dao integration stage cultivator said with a serious expression, "You only saw this little bastard's despicableness, but you didn't see his talent. This little bastard, perhaps. He really is a peerless prodigy who is even more talented and outstanding than Mo Ingfeng. Naturally, he's even more dangerous. The current situation is truly difficult to handle. If we don't send out a sky-level battle prowess, there's simply no one here who's a match for that brat. The only thing we can do is to watch him escape and swagger off." These words caused everyone to fall silent. This was the truth. Now, there were only 2 ways to make Xiaoduo stay. First, the military blockade and use human lives to kill him. Then, the military formation would be used as a unit to self-destruct. Second, in a specific environment, the immolation token would be used to self-destruct consecutively or in an orderly manner until he was dead. Judging from the current situation, nascent soul reigning stage cultivators were no longer a threat to him in a one-on-one battle. Everyone had seen the battle just now. Hundreds of people, 6 nascent soul reigning stage cultivators led the team, more than 30 soul reigning stage cultivators, and more than 100 soul transformation stage cultivators were all killed by Xiaoduo in the blink of an eye. They didn't even have the chance to self-destruct. Was he really just a newly advanced soul reigning stage cultivator? Wasn't this a little too inconceivable? Let's report this situation first and let the heavenly kings think carefully about what to do and whether to break the rules of the immolation token. A group of Umno Alliance cultivators were worried sick. The immolation token was indeed a restriction that couldn't be avoided, especially now that Xiaoduo had caused a ruckus to the point where everyone knew about it. Although the UMNO Alliance's external network communication had been completely cut off, it could only be said that ordinary people and ordinary martial artists wouldn't know about this matter. However, the higher-ups had no influence at all. The immolation token. Even Lei Changtian's biggest reliance was the immolation token. The immolation token was created by the Flood Witch, and the Flood Witch was the arbiter of the immolation token. She had arbitrated several times. The Flood Witch herself was the highest authority in the UMNO Alliance. This was the biggest restriction. If the UMNO Alliance sent experts above the fairy realm to deal with Zhuo, then whether it was the Astral Souls or the Tao League, the Flood Witch would be ashamed. They probably didn't need to do much. The Flood Witch wouldn't be able to stand it if they casually said a few words. Flood, you set the rules yourself, but even your own people don't follow them. What are you going to do? The Tao League said, we didn't do anything over there, and you came over to kill a heavenly king. Now it's your turn. Are you going to kill a grand shaman, or are you going to apologize with your own death? The Astral Souls said, we made a move over here. You killed 36 demon monarchs and beat up the demon ancestor until he disappeared for thousands of years. Now it's your turn. How many do you want to kill? Anyway, you can't kill less than 36 Tao integration stage experts. And you have to at least cripple a grand shaman, right? That situation could be imagined with just a little imagination. When that happened, the Flood Witch's state of mind would be more than just sour. It would be natural for her to break down. Great, the Flood Witch would be ashamed and angry. It wouldn't be impossible for her to kill herself. Just based on this consideration, the UMNO Alliance would definitely not break the rules of the token of gratitude. The Flood Witch was the UMNO Alliance's biggest pillar. He couldn't afford to lose face. He couldn't afford to lose face. Even if he wanted to do something, he definitely couldn't do it in the UMNO Alliance's territory. He could go to the Astral Souls to assassinate her. That way, he could find all kinds of reasons to shirk responsibility. But if it really happened in the UMNO Alliance's territory, then don't think about it. Previously, the Tao League sent a fairy to deal with Zhuo, but Zhuo was still alive. The Flood Witch went to the Tao League's territory and killed a heavenly king with 2 strikes of her hammer. And now it was still Zhuo, who would dare to act rashly. Try to act rashly? Everyone in the UMNO Alliance knew this very well. No matter how ashamed and angry they were, they could only allow Zhuo to taunt them. They couldn't do anything, and they didn't dare to act rashly. On the mountaintop, Zhuo laughed. Ha 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 ha. Then, he suddenly somersaulted and fell straight down. He crashed through the clouds in the sky and disappeared below. Everyone could hear the continuous rumbling and the sounds of battle. Zhuo descended at an extremely fast speed. High up in the sky, all the fairy realm Tao integration experts frowned. They really shouldn't have come. They came. Were they just here to be bullied? But if they didn't see this little bastard being torn to pieces and beaten to death, they wouldn't be satisfied. The next moment, the countless experts in the sky were suddenly thrown into disarray by the wind. Where was Zhuo? Why did Zhuo's life aura suddenly disappear without a trace? Why was there no sign of life left? He jumped down in such a grand and heroic manner. How'd he disappear just like that? What's going on now? One of the UMNO Alliance Tao integration experts looked at the others in astonishment. Seems like it. Another person also had an indescribable toothache. That bastard acted like he was the best, then jumped down and fled. This was simply Chapter 970. That kind of heroic spirit, that kind of fighting spirit. Was it just for show? To pave the way? But how did that kind of emotion come about? His state of mind doesn't match at all. Fuck. Numerous experts of the Wizard Alliance cursed in unison in the sky, expressing everyone's thoughts at the moment. What the hell is this? Lei Changtian was still hiding in the dark. He didn't say anything. He didn't feel angry that these UMNO Alliance fighters were cursing at his grandson. In fact, he even had a faint feeling that these guys had helped him speak his mind. Because Lei Changtian, old demon tears, also wanted to curse in his heart. Fuck. What the hell is this? What kind of parents could give birth to such a despicable son? No, my daughter has inherited my genes. She can't be like this. It must be Zhuo Changchang's fault. He must have passed on some bad genes to his daughter. Just now, Zhuo Xiao Duo's arrogant and overbearing attitude was insufferably arrogant, but he was very clear in his heart. Although those guys up there wouldn't really come down to deal with him, they would try their best to locate him. They would stare at him as if they didn't want to die. In other words, he had thousands of accurate radars on his head at all times. They could locate his current position and share it with everyone around him. Everyone in the UMNO alliance. What the fuck? How could he feel good? Therefore, after his heroic act just now, he jumped down without saying a word. He could create a huge momentum of death as well as a commotion. Then he imitated his own momentum with a stream of elemental energy and rolled down the mountain with a big rock. With a swoosh, he entered the space exterminating pagoda. Well, go and chase after me. I need to take a rest. That act of showing off just now has used up all my strength and courage. I need to save my energy and recharge my energy. Then, I'll go and fight with you guys again. In any case, I've just broken through to the royal god-reigning realm. So, I need to consolidate my current realm. I won't accompany you any longer. The group of Dao integration stage and Skysoar realm experts in the sky rushed to the foot of the mountain in disbelief. They searched everywhere with their divine senses, and after a long while, they confirmed that there was really nothing left. However, everyone who came to this conclusion couldn't help but look at each other. Where did that kid go? No idea. Could it be that this brat has a void transformation stone with him? Someone guessed. That makes sense. Immediately, many people seemed to have come to a sudden realization and agreed one after another. As Dao fusing Soar realm experts, aside from being high-level cultivators, they were all experienced and knowledgeable people. Even if they hadn't seen some things with their own eyes, they would still have heard of them. The current situation could only be explained by Zhuo Xiaoduo possessing a rare treasure like the Void Transformation Stone. If that brat really has a Void Transformation Stone with him, then he has too many trump cards. How are we going to kill him? We'll be lucky if we don't get killed by him instead. ALNO Alliance's peak stage Skysoar realm expert muttered. At this moment, other than feeling a hint of jealousy from that person's words, there was also a hint of fear. Among the experts present, which one of them hadn't been nurtured as a genius from a young age? But now, looking at Zhuo Xiaoduo's equipment, they couldn't help but feel dejected and ashamed of their inferiority. When I was his age, I didn't have a single one of those things. Even now, I've already reached the Skysoar realm, but I still don't have a single one of those things. Look at the sword in his hand. I've been nurturing this sword with my soul for so many years. If it were to clash head-on with that brat's sword, it would probably turn into a sawtooth in an instant. Is the Golden Scaled Shamans group here yet? Someone asked. That's right. Right now. Only Sir Jean Lin's group. No, Sir Lei Bao, Sir Shihai, Sir Ranju, and the others with special cultivation techniques can restrain Zhuo Xiaoduo's abilities. But I don't know if they're here yet. Just another 300 li and we'll reach Lone Bamboo City. One of the experts said worriedly, I'm guessing that Zhuo Xiaoduo's next goal is to enter Lone Bamboo City. No matter how much loot we get from the battle, when it comes to supplies, entering the city is still the most convenient. As long as we enter the city, we won't have to search on our own, and we won't have to worry about being schemed against. After all, it's still a city. We can't use a city as the price to cut off Zhuo Xiaoduo's supplies. That's right. Let's see what happens next. If you have any ideas, you can inform us at any time. We're just passing on information, and it won't count as us doing anything. You don't have to tell me that. I'm thinking. But other than personally killing him, what else can we do? Pig brain. You've thought of something? Let's go to Lone Bamboo City. Zhuo Xiaoduo left a long time ago. What if he didn't leave? You're such a retard. What else can you do besides retard? What if he really didn't leave? If he didn't leave, would he stay here and retire? You're such a retard. Who are you talking about? Don't go. Tell me. Who are you calling a retard? Who's the retard? Stop right there. Tell me clearly. How am I a retard? A large group of people walked towards Lone Bamboo City. In the middle of the crowd, there was a retard's voice. After walking for a few hundred li, he still didn't give up. How am I a retard? What did I retard? You're playing dead. Tell me, retard. What's wrong with being a retard? Did I eat your rice? High up in the sky, a faintly discernible cloud floated back and forth. Previously, when so many people gathered here, they still didn't notice the presence of this person above them. Moreover, it had indeed confirmed the saying that there was always someone better than you, and there was always someone better than you. Lei Changtian. Of course, Grandpa didn't leave. He was a shrewd man. How could he not see that those who could pose a threat to his grandson were those people? After following Zhuo Xiaoduo for such a long time, Lei Zhantian had already understood that this little bastard had never left after witnessing Zhuo Xiaoduo's mysterious disappearance several times. He was just hiding for the time being. Although he still didn't know what method that kid used, it didn't stop him from coming to the conclusion that he hadn't left yet. Sure enough, by the time the sky turned dark, there were countless groups of people in the sky. They were all rushing towards Lone Bamboo City. The sky was completely dark. On the half-destroyed Lone Bamboo Mountain, there were only a few sighs and sobs from the UMNO Alliance soldiers. There was also the sound of chanting. Other than that, there was no other sound. Then, near the foot of the mountain, Zhuo Xiaoduo's aura appeared in a faintly discernible but real manner. Although this aura was faint and almost undetectable, it was enough for Lei Changtian, who had been carefully searching for traces of Zhuo Xiaoduo. This kid had actually used some unknown method to conceal more than 99% of his aura. He had even changed his appearance and dressing up like this and that. This was the conclusion that Lei Changtian came to when he used his divine sense to take a look. Cough, cough, cough. Cough, 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 cough. When the old man glanced over, he choked on the wind in the air and coughed nonstop. Tears almost came out his eyes. This kid is too fucking talented. Because what was reflected in the old man's divine sense was a stunning beauty. The beauty that appeared was tall and slender. She was about 7,576 meters tall. She had willowy eyebrows, cherry lips, an oval face, and pink skin. Her lips were red without any lipstick, and her eyebrows were black without any makeup. She was indescribably beautiful. Her eyes were like ripples in the autumn water. Her body was like a willow tree swaying in the breeze. Her chest was high, her waist was slender, and her buttocks were round. She had a pair of straight, pink, and slender legs. Everything was so harmonious and pleasing to the eye. Her white clothes and her hair were like clouds and waterfalls. It hung down to her slender waist. She was too beautiful, too beautiful. There were no more ornaments on the beauty's head. There was only a simple purple jade hairpin. She gently tied up her hair. She looked very casual. She held the lady's sword in her hand and wore snow-white boots made of demon bee skin. As she walked, her elegant fragrance drifted with the wind. It made people feel more relaxed and happy. Only her face was covered with a layer of iciness like an iceberg, adding to the feeling of being isolated from the world, like a winter plum blossom. Such a beauty could only be admired from afar. She was not to be touched. The beauty showed off all the way. She did not hide her tracks at all. She leisurely walked towards Lone Bamboo City. She walked in the sky openly. Her light purple ribbons trailed behind her slim body. She flew more than 100 feet. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Along the way, countless experts of the Wizard Alliance were dumbfounded. Who is that in front? So beautiful. Such a flirtatious aura. Slurp. Oh, I'm drunk. I feel like I'm in love. Bang. If you want to fly, then fly. Why did you bump into me? Don't you have eyes? The person who was scolded stared blankly. He did not care about being scolded. Chapter 971. This young man named Thundercat was quite handsome. He had a pair of peach blossom eyes and a smile. His eyes were filled with warmth. Even his body was slender at first glance. However, if one were to step on the ground, they would be able to see that his body proportions were seriously unbalanced. His upper body was long, and his lower body was short. Her entire body was about 178 meters, which could be considered tall. However, her upper body, including her head, was about 3 meters. Her lower body, from her thighs to her feet, was less than 50 centimeters. Her proportions were really uncoordinated to a considerable extent. Beauty's was stopped in her tracks. She walked slowly because she wanted to hook up with the rich guy. Otherwise, even if she disguised herself, a single woman entering the lone bamboo city would be suspicious. Once she made a move, she would be exposed immediately. To be able to enter the city with a big family was definitely the best choice. Of course, she couldn't agree too quickly. She had to be reserved, play hard to get, and play hard to get. So she looked at him coldly with her clear eyes. She opened her red lips and asked suspiciously, "Thundercat, are you from the Lay family?" That small voice was cool and pleasant to the ear, like a clear spring in the mountains, tinkling and ringing, making one's bones go limp as soon as one heard it. The Thundercat's bones had already melted. That voice was too pleasant to listen to. But he suddenly became spirited and made a pose that he thought was very cool. He smiled and said, "You know about the Lay family. Ha! May I know your name?" "My surname is Sue." Swishauduo said coldly. "Mr. Lay, please." "I heard that your name was special, so I wanted to ask you." "Ha! No need." "Why not?" Thundercat's heart was itching. He looked at the beauty in front of him. "Oh, this 176 meters tall. She weighs less than 100 pounds. At most, she is no more than 100 pounds. Her chest is about 92 pounds. Waist should be 59 pounds. 60. Hips, 93 pounds. The ratio of the upper body to the lower body is about 5:8 in the golden ratio. Maybe even a little more, like 8:5. This body is really slurp." The Thundercat boasted that he had seen countless women. With just a glance, he could remember the basic number of women in his mind, and the error would not be more than 3 millimeters. But after so many years, this was the first time he had seen a woman with such a perfect figure. She was so devastatingly beautiful that she could cause the downfall of a country. Therefore, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "Miss Sue, my name." "Ha! My name actually has a very interesting story." Zwishauduo ignored him completely. She had really learned from Zhua Xiaoyan's cold aura. She drifted away with the wind. Her long hair fluttered, her clothes fluttered, her fragrance fluttered, and her ribbons fluttered. Of course, the Thundercat was followed by Yufeng. They walked side by side. Looking at the beautiful side profile of the beauty, he could only feel his heart thumping wildly. "I'm in love. I'm really in love." Back then, my mother loved to raise animals. My family used to raise a few pandas, but one of them was very weak. Compared to other pandas, its legs were shorter, as if it did not have any legs at all. My mother loved it very much. She always said, "Panda, if you don't have legs, won't you become a cat?" The corner of Zhuxianyan's mouth twitched, as if she wanted to laugh, but she held it back. Then, she continued to move forward with the wind. The Thundercat saw the beauty's reaction, and he was very happy. So, he continued to talk. "I was born that year. When I was born, my father said, 'Why are the children's legs so short?' But my mother liked it very much. Among all my siblings, she liked me the most. It was probably because of my short legs. She even gave me the name Thundercat." The Thundercat laughed. "My mother hoped that I could live a carefree life like a panda. So, she named me Thundercat." Yes, that's it. Haha. This is the origin of my name. It's not bad. It's very popular. Originally, this name had brought me a lot of troubles, and I didn't like it when I was young. But as I grew up, I understood my mother's painstaking efforts. So, I liked it more and more. My mother gave me the nickname Mighty Cat, and I did live up to this name. I'm really big everywhere. The kind of big that makes others envious. The Thundercat looked like a filial son. However, the Lay family guards who were following behind him almost vomited out blood. "Little cat, don't brag. Who doesn't know that the name you dislike the most is your own name? Last month, you were beaten up because you wanted to change your name. For so many years, if anyone dared to mention the name Thundercat in front of you, it would be the prelude to your anger. No, this name had caused a lot of people's lives, so the word punching was not enough to describe it. Now, you actually said that you like your own name the most just because you want to pick up girls. We really want to ask, doesn't your conscience hurt when you talk like this? Do you even believe in your own long-winded and irrefutable arguments? You actually called yourself Mighty Cat, but the beauty in front of him obviously agreed with the Thundercat statement. Although she was still cold, she nodded for the first time and said, "Yes, yes. You are so filial to your parents. I guess your mother must be very pleased with your filial piety." The Thundercat blinked his eyes. Suddenly, his eyes turned red. He sighed and tried to hold back his tears. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "My mother. I haven't seen her for 3 years." Beauty's Wool was surprised. "I'm sorry, I didn't know she had." Just when Xiaoduo was about to say the word passed away, she has been in seclusion for a long time. The Thundercat blinked his eyes hard. Tears almost came out of his eyes. "I haven't enjoyed a mother's love for 3 years." Beauty's expression immediately turned speechless, and she rolled her eyes coquettishly. "Fuck, I thought your mother dot, but she was in seclusion. Young Master Lei, don't make such jokes to your elders." Beauty's was scolded. Well, Beauty's was greedy, stingy, and timid, but she would not forget her morals for profit. She especially valued filial piety. Any disobedient and unfilial behavior would not work for her. Of course, except for foolish filial piety and blind obedience. Yes, you're right. The Thundercat nodded like a chicken pecking rice. "I will listen to you from now on. I will listen to you forever." Beauty's who obviously didn't want to offend someone, continued to ride the wind and even sped up. "Miss, where you going?" The Thundercat followed suit and asked eagerly. No answer. She continued to fly forward coldly and expressionlessly. Her speed was even faster. "Miss Sue, why are you standing on the sidewalk? Although you're skilled and brave, the streets of Jianghu aren't peaceful. Now, a great devil has appeared in our Wizard Alliance. He's ruthless, kills people like flies, commits all sorts of crimes, and is insane." No answer. She continued to be cold and aloof. "The big devil is called Xiaoduo. He's a man of astral souls." The Thundercat followed behind the beauty and kept talking, introducing, describing, and adding more adjectives. He added more and more adjectives to Xiaoduo. Most importantly, he repeatedly said that this guy was a super pervert. He would not be able to walk away when he saw a beautiful woman. He would definitely do that and that and that. He was a perverted, disgusting thing. Although Beauty Zwa continued to move forward coldly, she finally slowed down a little. Because of the anger in her heart, she almost couldn't help but slap this guy into meat paste. "This bastard. How dare he slander me like this? Damn you. How could he spout such nonsense?" Yet, he said it in such a serious manner, as if it was true. He was vicious and merciless. It was fine if he killed and robbed, but he wasn't afraid of others talking about it. It was all legitimate operations, legitimate self-defense, okay? But since when can I walk away when I see a beautiful woman? Why'd I have to do that and that? I'm still a real man, okay? Once I'm out of danger, I'll definitely skin you alive and grind your bones to dust, you bastard. At this time, the lone bamboo city was in sight. The Thundercat saw that Beauty was moving slower and slower. He was overjoyed and thought that the beauty was scared. Wasn't this a great opportunity for him to please her? "Miss Sue, look, I have so many guards with me. Every one of them is an expert. The best of the best. No matter how arrogant Xiaoduo is, he won't dare to be presumptuous in front of me. In front of me, he is just a little brother. Miss Sue, can you tell me where you're going? I can escort you there." The Thundercat then began to boast. "To be honest, Miss Sue, the Lei family is quite powerful in the Umno Alliance." Beauty's nodded slightly. "The shocking Thunder family of the 12 ancient families. No matter how ignorant I am, I have heard of it. I am here to catch Xiaoduo and bring him to justice." The Thundercat first pretended to be cool with an indifferent expression, indicating that catching Zhuo was a piece of cake. Then he said flatteringly, "So, you are free to do whatever you want. Miss Su, where are you going? I can send you there." "This is not a good idea." Beauty Zhuo hesitated. Her bright eyes flickered. Master Lei has a heavy responsibility on his shoulders. "I am a burden. I am afraid that I will delay his work." "It won't delay. You are so smart and pure. How can it delay you?" The Thundercat patted his chest loudly. "Don't worry. Just leave everything to me. I, the Thundercat, am definitely worth anything, including your lifelong commitment." The Thundercat added in his heart, "I am not an ungrateful person. I thank you for your kindness, but I really don't know how to repay you." Beauty's face finally softened. The Thundercat was overjoyed. She called herself his little sister. "Good, good, cough." He did not care about his image, did not care about acting cool, and used his stupidity to act cute. What a good move. So skillful, so common, so tried and tested. Our ninth young master was able to win over such a cold beauty with just a few words. Now, it was obvious that they were going to stick together like glue. Otherwise, he would not be called the 10,000 killer. He is indeed worthy of our admiration. What a powerful man. His skills are worthy of admiration, but difficult to imitate. We're not that cheap, but a few people had already started to bet. Guess how long it will take for our ninth young master to hit a home run? I bet 3 days. What about you? I don't want to bet anymore. Another person looked sad. Such a beauty. She is so beautiful. Sigh. I can't bear to think about it. I don't want to bet anymore. Damn, we have someone who cares about women. I didn't expect that. The entire Lone Bamboo City, except for the Lei family, was filled with tension. The aura of the Dao integration stage flying in the sky almost crushed the entire Lone Bamboo City, a city with more than 5 million people. The natives of Lone Bamboo City were all trembling in fear. The people who were originally in charge of patrolling the city's security were all replaced. Now, the weakest patrolling on the streets was at the cloud transformation stage. In the past, a cloud transformation stage expert was enough to dominate an area. But now they were all gone. When it came to soul transformation stage experts, they were already gone. Cloud transformation stage experts were no better than dogs. God reigning stage experts were everywhere. Mystic returning stage experts were nothing. Only Dao integration stage experts could barely be considered experts. Countless experts were still rushing over from all directions, like hundreds of rivers converging into the sea. Outside Lone Bamboo City, there was no sound. There was an aura of life everywhere. Such a lineup proved with their lives that Zhuo had not left. After Zhuo came down from Lone Bamboo Mountain, he entered Lone Bamboo City directly. Until now, he was still in the city. As long as he was in the city, there was a way to trap him and kill him, especially the descendants of the major clans. Everyone knew that this was an opportunity. At the same time, it was also the most dangerous opportunity, because experts above the Sky Realm were not allowed to make a move. Then, the highest level was at the Mystic Returning Stage. In other words, if a Mystic Returning Stage expert killed Xiaoduo, the flood which in all the higher-ups of the Astral Souls could only watch, they could not do anything. Even if they wanted to take revenge, they could only find another opportunity on the battlefield, because what the other party did was in accordance with the rules. But now, the most obvious thing was, even the strongest Mystic Returning Stage expert in the Umno Alliance was no match for Xiaoduo. This was a difficult problem. It was almost unsolvable. But for the young masters, this was not a problem at all. If one Mystic Returning Stage expert could not do it, how about 10? How about 100? How about 1,000? How about 10,000? 100,000 would also be very kawaii. What we have is people, and we have resources. It would be worth it even if you were killed. Countless battle formations had already been rehearsed. They were just waiting for the moment when the target appeared and could be put to use. As long as Xiaoduo appeared, this group of people would rush forward and not give him a chance to escape. They would not stop until he was dead. Now, Even a few families in the Lone Bamboo Hotel had started a meeting. Everyone, come to the biggest meeting room. Let's have a meeting. When the time comes, let's not rush together. If we kill Xiaoduo, who will it belong to? If we don't make this clear in advance, if we fight, it will be a joke. That's true. This time, there were many people from the 12 clans. A total of 7 clans came. Other than the Hong, Lai Wu, Feng, and Bing clans, the rest were all here. Especially the Golden Scale Witches Sha clan, there were many extra people this time. Let's have a meeting. Where are the Lei clan people? Where did the Lei clan people go? Who came this time? I heard it's the Thundercat. That pervert. Where is he? He hit on a girl when he just arrived. I saw him go up. Fuck. A few people scolded in unison. How can he still be in the mood to hit on girls? Hurry up and drag him down for a meeting. No matter how good he is at hitting on girls, he can't make Xiaoduo disappear. Hurry up and come down. The Thundercat was lying in beauty with Xiaoduo's room. Miss Su, your hand doesn't look like a swordsman's. There are no traces at all. The so-called slender hand is just like this. As he said, he touched her hand. Beauties were attracted to her hand and snorted. Do I need any traces to practice swordsmanship? Hee. The Thundercat smelled the fragrance of the orchid and musk and said, Miss Su, your hand is really beautiful. Turn it over and let me see your palm print. Let me tell you, I know how to read palms. I have done a lot of research in this area. I can read anyone's marriage and marriage. Everyone says that I am very good at reading people's faces. I can read people's faces very accurately. People say that I can read people's faces very accurately. No need. I don't really believe in that. Oh, I have nothing to do anyway. It's just for fun. The Thundercat was trying to flatter her, but Beauty Zwo was trying her best to reject his flattery. Beauty Zwo was trying her best to suppress her urge to tell the fortune of the Thundercat and his subordinates. Beauty Zwo was trying her best to suppress her urge. Thundercat. An earth-shattering roar came from outside. The roar was full of exasperation. Come to the meeting room on the 3rd floor. The Thundercat's face darkened when he heard the sudden roar. He shouted angrily, What kind of shitty hotel is this? Why is the soundproofing so bad? He picked up the phone and made a call. What meeting? I have something important to deal with. Let's have a meeting to discuss how to deal with Xiaoduo. A strong voice came from the phone. We're waiting for you. Hurry up and come here. What's there to discuss about Xiaoduo? It's not as important as my business. The Thundercat was not willing to go down. He clearly felt that he was about to succeed, especially when he mentioned palmistry just now. Looking at the beautiful woman's expression, it was obvious that she was very interested in fortune-telling. Chapter 973. The Thundercat was very reluctant. He believed that if he had a little more time, he would be able to hit a safe home run. 1 hour. No, half an hour would be enough. Just now, Beauty Sue's heart was fluttering, and her eyebrows were flying. Now was the perfect time to take advantage of the situation and take her down in one fell swoop. Every minute of the night was worth 1,000 gold, and it was the best time to make love. If he went down now, this opportunity to strike while the iron was hot would be gone in the blink of an eye. He really didn't know when the next time would be. Beauty Zwo looked over with her beautiful eyes curiously and said very considerately, How to deal with Xiaoduo? That peerless master? This is a serious matter. Young Master Lei, don't delay. Go ahead. The Thundercat became more and more depressed and complained, What peerless master? It's just a piece of shit Xiaoduo, and you make it sound like a big deal. What a bummer. What? Beauties was said in surprise, but young Master Lei, didn't you just say that Xiaoduo is very powerful, has killed countless people, and his cultivation is even more profound? He's also a peerless master, and he's very lecherous, and asked me to be careful? Is this person not to be feared? What he said just now? Were you just coaxing me? The Thundercat's face changed. No, I made a mistake just now. Although Xiaoduo is not a peerless expert, he is still a peerless, ruthless man. He is a genius and can easily kill high-level practitioners. Moreover, he is also a lecherous man and will commit all kinds of evil deeds. He is extremely lecherous. My partner asked me to have a meeting to end this man as soon as possible. I will go down to the meeting first. Miss Sue, you can have a good rest here. You will be safe here. I will come back soon. When I come back, I will read your palm. I'll be back soon. So Xiaoduo blinked and said, Okay, I'll wait for you. Actually, I also like to read fortunes. He cursed in his heart. What do you mean by piece of shits with Xiaoduo? How am I lecherous and lecherous? This bastard is simply spouting nonsense. He deserves to die. When you come back, I will read your fortune and send you back to your hometown. The upper echelons of the young masters gathered together for a meeting. The bodyguards they brought, other than their personal bodyguards, all dispersed. This time, the meeting didn't come back as soon as the Thundercat said. Instead, it lasted for 2 hours. As for the arrangements, formations, and tactics of the various clans, they all communicated with each other. As a result, conflicts between the various clans were unavoidable. Although Xiaoduo had not appeared yet, everyone knew that Xiaoduo was in Lone Bamboo City. With so many experts from the various clans, it would not be difficult for them to kill Xiaoduo here. No matter how much of a genius Xiaoduo was, there was a limit to human strength. In the end, he would not be able to escape death. Even a ferocious tiger would be afraid of a pack of wolves. Moreover, not only was Xiaoduo not a ferocious tiger, but they were also not comparable to a pack of wolves. It would be more appropriate to say that it was a group of tigers devouring sheep. Then came the most direct question. There was only one Xiaoduo. Because of him, there was only one reward and reputation. Who would it be for? Each and every one of the young masters of the great clans had come from afar with a purpose. It was obvious that each of their clan's intentions were straightforward and clear. They were here to kill Xiaoduo and gild their names. Whoever could kill Xiaoduo would be the most outstanding person among the younger generation of the Wizard Alliance. Needless to say, everyone clearly understood this in their hearts. Not convinced? Why should they not be convinced? Why aren't you the one who killed Xiaoduo? The first discussion about who should go first caused a dispute. You go first? Then after you go first, will I still have a share? Why shouldn't I go first? How am I worse than you? No, absolutely not. How can there be an order? Once the topic was pointed out, the scene fell into chaos. Amongst the people present, which one of them wasn't an arrogant person that looked down upon everyone else? How could they be willing to fall behind? It looked like a huge farce was about to unfold. Knock, knock, knock. Sha Hun and Hai Hun Shan from the West Sea Grand, which clan on the other side knocked on the table at the same time. They all had a headache. Be quiet for a while. Don't talk. The Sand Soul knocked on the table so hard that it almost broke the table, but it didn't work at all. You are powerful in the Sha clan. You have the right to speak in the Sha clan. That's your home. No matter how powerful you are in your home, you can't control me. Who do you think you are? Sha Hun had no choice but to stand up and say, Everyone, I, Sha Hun, have something to say. Maybe it can solve the current situation. If you think it's unreasonable, it won't be too late to do it. He said this 3 times in a row, and then gradually quieted down. The 16 young masters of the 7 families all tilted their heads and looked at Sand Soul with discontent on their faces. The scene was chaotic just now, but everyone knew that if they continued to argue like this, it would be difficult to get a result. Since Sha Hun proposed a feasible plan, they were willing to listen. After all, there were 16 of them, plus the 3 from the Sha clan. There were 19 people in total. It was really a gathering of heroes. The leaders of the younger generation of the Umno Alliance had gathered. Sha Hun took a deep breath, squinted his eyes, and said with a smile, What I'm going to say may not be pleasant to hear. Brothers, please bear with me. It's better to say the ugly words first. It's better than hurting the harmony within the Umno Alliance when the time comes. Hai Han Shan from the West Sea Grandwich clan was a big and burly man. He had a bulbous nose, a toad mouth, triangular eyes, and broom-like eyebrows. He was abnormally tall and sturdy. He sat there like a huge toad and said in a rough voice, Say it. Sha Hun nodded and said, I have to say these ugly words. As the younger generation, although we are not young, compared to Zhuo, we are obviously not on the same level. It was indeed ugly words. They were really unpleasant to hear. Many young masters snorted from their nostrils, and their faces changed color. There were even a few people who glared at Shahan. I know that you don't like to hear it. Most of us here have already reached the returning mysterious realm. There are even a few people who have suppressed the agitation of their vital essence several times after reaching the peak of the returning mysterious realm. They can break through to the sky realm at any time. But I still want to remind everyone here, Xiaoduo's current cultivation base, although he has just broken through to the royal god realm not long ago, his battle strength, according to the latest information collected from the recent battles, can be confirmed that his battle strength is far beyond the peak of the returning mysterious realm. The peak of the returning mysterious realm here includes those who have suppressed the agitation of their vital essence many times. To be fair, even if we send out ordinary sky realm cultivators, it will be difficult to be Xiaoduo's opponent. Shahan said word by word in an orderly manner. Every word was sonorous and meaningful. And the favor order made by the Flood Ancestor basically restricts us from sending out sky realm cultivators and above to help in this battle, further making Xiaoduo invincible at this stage. It is said that Lei Jiuxiao of the Lei family once met Xiaoduo. He immediately sent out the peak of the returning mysterious realm to restrain him with his life, as well as 50 death warriors to self-destruct, but it was still futile. Shahan's voice was very heavy. Combining all the information and reality above, this Xiaoduo's battle strength has probably reached the level of our parents' generation or even our ancestors' generation. If we don't have a proper plan and act rashly, not only will it be futile, but it will also consume the strength in our hands and die in vain. The young masters shook their heads and tongues, but they were speechless for a long time. Obviously, they knew that Shahan was telling the truth and had nothing to say. No matter how unwilling they were to admit it, and how it hurt their pride, they had to admit that Xiaoduo's current strength had indeed reached this level. So what we need to consider the most now is how to kill Xiaoduo. The so-called merit is just a trivial matter. Shahan said soberly, as long as we get rid of this enemy with terrifying potential, the higher-ups will definitely reward us handsomely. If we work together, we might get a small share of the profits. But if we continue to argue like this, there's only one possibility, and that is that Xiaoduo will break through our defense line one by one and then leave calmly. I even dare to say that even if any of the clans were to use all their strength below the Sky Realm, it would still not be enough to stop Xiaoduo. They might even be killed by Xiaoduo one by one, to the point where every clan will be wiped out. This is definitely not an alarmist talk. This is the current situation. Every clan has to face the truth. Our clans are indeed very powerful, but in the face of the current predicament, we are helpless and powerless. This is the reality, because we can't do things in the name of Lord Flood. None of us can bear that kind of responsibility. If everyone is willing to work together to deal with Xiaoduo, the Sha clan is willing to do our best to participate in this grand undertaking. But if everyone still wants to fight for themselves and monopolize the profits, then Shahan squinted his eyes and smiled. We, the Sha clan, will leave this place immediately, because there is no other meaning in staying here except for the danger of losing our lives. Hai Hushan rolled his triangular eyes and pouted his toad-like mouth. His slender tongue licked the tip of his nose, and then he said seriously, "Then tell me, what should we do? How should we work together?" The others also looked at Shahan thoughtfully, waiting for him to continue. It had to be said that Shahan's mind was still very clear. Shahan said, "The most important thing now is to make sure that all the clans work together and eliminate the possibility of our own clans dragging our own clans down. As for the way to stop Xiaoduo, it's easy to talk about. First, cooperate with the Burning Body Order. Second, seal the soul. Third, seal the space. Fourth, crush the strength. Fifth, completely cut off Xiaoduo's escape route." The direction that I wrote before was a little wrong. It caused a lot of problems here. The manuscript is ruined. Originally, I wanted to dress as a woman and trick him directly, but that would be too insulting to my intelligence. So I rewrote this paragraph. Sigh. Chapter 974. Shah Hun spoke very slowly. As he spoke, he quickly organized all the information in his mind. His voice was clear as he said, "From the information sent by Lei Jiuxiao, as well as the information from these few snipes, we can confirm that Xiaoduo has a spatial equipment in his hands. It is very likely to be the hidden dragon martial arts master, Yi Changqing's Mia Tower. So, when our people self-destruct, he will be fine as long as he hides in the tower. This is what I mentioned before. This was Xiaoduo's last step, where his escape route lies. How can we be sure that when the people with the incineration order self-destruct, Xiaoduo will not be able to escape? This is the most important factor. If we can't cut off his escape route, no matter how many incineration orders we have, we will only let Xiaoduo watch the fireworks in vain. His sacrifice will be in vain. It will be meaningless." He said with a heavy tone, "Everyone has their own treasures. I have no intention to elaborate on this. Everyone knows what they are doing. But if you're unwilling to take it out, or if some people take it out and some don't want to take it out, it may cause all our efforts to be in vain. If Xiaoduo escapes, countless people will be implicated and sacrificed in vain. Everyone is the leader of the younger generation. It is impossible that you do not understand this principle." Shah Hun said, "I will say this much. If there is anything that I have not said, or if it is unpleasant, please forgive me." He bowed and sat down. Although they sat down, everyone calmed down. The whole place was silent for a long time. These people were the leaders of a younger generation of the big families. Naturally, none of them were ordinary people. They had their own strengths and weaknesses. Although all of them were either lecherous, gambling-loving, boorish, stingy, or temperamental in appearance, none of them were easy to get along with. If they underestimated any one of them because of their external performance, they would definitely suffer a great loss. Therefore, although everyone knew that Shah Hun wanted to use the treasures of their families, they did not object at first. Instead, they were deep in thought. For example, Hai Hun Shan, who was ugly and had dark skin, was wearing a snow-white robe. He looked extremely rough, but in fact, he was a very meticulous person. At the same time, his own strength was also in the top 3 among all the people who came here. Everyone knew the name Toad King, Hai Hun Shan. He was fierce, vicious, and cruel. However, his ugly appearance could make people instinctively afraid. Perhaps because he was ugly, people did not want to take a second look at him and let their guard down. Everyone present was well aware of what was going on. Hai Hun Shan stood up. With a slurp, his long tongue licked the tip of his nose. He said seriously, "Shah Hun is right. This matter is not something that can be fought for. What we're doing now is to eliminate a great enemy for the future of our Umno alliance." Everyone nodded slowly. This was a good statement. This general direction and premise were real and true. With Zhuo Xiaoduo's current level of cultivation, his true combat strength, and the time he had spent cultivating was not enough to describe him as a heaven-defying monster. If he was allowed to grow, wouldn't he become another Sky Inspector Throne? The astral souls had painstakingly made the Sky Inspector Throne appear out of nowhere. This was a reversal of the situation where they were suppressed by the Umno Alliance and the Tao League. There were already too many of such people. The other one had to be nipped in the bud. If he was allowed to grow, it would not be a question of whether he was easy to kill. Instead, it would be impossible to kill him. Let me add a plan to deal with Xiaoduo. The others looked at him with disdain. We all know each other. Even if you pretend to be lecherous and stingy, do you think we will believe you? The Thundercat's face twisted. He really wanted to say, "I am not pretending this time." But he had to say, "Okay, I promise to use the Thunder Mirror once to complete this task." Then, everyone's eyes turned to Yin Ziki from the Burning Candle Witch's family. Yin Ziki sighed and said, "I will adjust the Yin Yang Mirror at the last moment and separates Wishaoduo from his annihilation. Small tower. The Annihilation Tower was a taboo topic now. If there was no one else, and it was only the family members who talked about it, they could talk about it without any scruples. But with so many descendants of the great wizards here, the words Annihilation Tower were taboo words that could not be spoken easily. Although no one from the great wizard Dan Kong's D family came, who could guarantee that it would not be spread to other people's ears. Hai Hunshan said, since that is the case, the plan is set. As long as Xiaoduo appears, we will first send people to intercept him and try to determine his location as soon as possible and limit him to a certain range. Then Kami no Su will activate the sky-shaking gong and break the space in an indiscriminate attack mode. Then he will control Xiaoduo's movements and lock Xiaoduo in this area. Then Shahan will use the soul-hurting arrow. It must hit the target. Then the Thundercat will attack and suppress him with the range of the Thunder Mirror. My immortal tying lock will then bind and imprison him. The Yin-Yang Mirror will completely isolate him, and the burning token will explode immediately. Hai Hunshan said, the immortal tying lock, Sky Thunder Mirror, Yin-Yang Mirror, and soul-hurting arrow can all be controlled remotely and improvised. But this sky-shaking gong. Wuxiu, are you sure you can protect yourself? If you can't succeed in the first step and pin down Xiaoduo, all the subsequent steps will not be valid. Kami no Su's handsome face was a little dull. She said, I can trigger the spiritual sense of the elders. There is no need to worry. Hai Hunshan said, to be safe, you wear my sea spirit shirt. It will help you withstand a fatal blow. Kami no Su was moved. She said, thank you, Brother Hai. Hai Hunshan's sea spirit shirt sounded exactly the same, but the sea spirit shirt was a treasure left by the West Sea Shaman. It was a defensive treasure refined from the water of the sea. The West Sea Shaman spent 100 years and only managed to refine 3 of them. Hai Hunshan was actually willing to lend such a treasure. It was really a big deal. People couldn't help but be moved. Needless to say, this series of arrangements was both offensive and defensive, and it was appropriate to advance and retreat. The layers of arrangements were watertight and vicious to the extreme. Everyone discussed once more, and they seriously considered where there were still loopholes that needed to be perfected. After a long time, they finally decided. Things were settled like this. After constructing such a meticulous arrangement, the young masters even had a feeling. Even if they were targeting a heavenly king stage powerhouse, they would still fall into our trap. It should be known that the construction of this sure kill trap could be said to be an all-round 3-dimensional attack. Moreover, the main targets of the attack were all dreamlike items, legendary treasures. If one had to say that there was something lacking, it would probably be that the attacking power of these people was relatively limited. Even though they could use many magic treasures to plot against the heavenly king stage powerhouses, they were still unable to break through the most basic physical defense of the opponent. This was the absolute difference between the ranks, not the fault of the battle. But if the target was changed as Xiaoduo, what was Emir's Xiaoduo worth? It was not a problem. After the meeting, the Thundercat could not wait to go upstairs and knock on the door. Miss Su, it's me, the mighty cat. In a moment, the door opened. Beauties flipped her long hair and said with a smile, Young Master Lei, why did the meeting take so long? Didn't you say you'd be back soon? Who said so? It's so annoying. The Thundercat said as he tried to squeeze into the door. Young Master Lei, please behave yourself. Men and women should not touch each other. It is inconvenient for a man and a woman to be alone. It is already so late. Let's wait for another day. The beauty was very reserved. I have been annoyed by those people for too long, and I want to talk to Miss Toto to make myself feel better. I have brought some good tea with me this time, so let's have some tea. The Thundercat said, I promise I won't do anything. Beauties rolled her eyes and stepped aside helplessly. She walked to the sofa and sat down. She said in a seemingly unintentional tone, This meeting must have been effective. After such a long time, if it is still successful. Alas, they are a group of second-generation young masters. None of them are good. It could have been done with a few words, but it was delayed until now. They wasted a lot of good time. The Thundercat sat on the sofa opposite her and crossed his legs. He belittled all the others with one sentence. Miss Sue, if you see these people, you must be careful. None of them are kind, especially those who are a little bit ugly. Haven't you heard that Mr. Bai is the worst? Among these people, there were quite a few who were very handsome. She had to be prepared in advance and label them as bad people first. Oh, thank you for your advice. There are so many young masters gathered here, so Xiaoduo will not be able to escape. I wonder which young master will capture him in the end. Beauties was smiled sweetly. Anyway, I think I will be safe for the rest of my journey, right? With me here, who dares to touch you? Just Emir's with Xiaoduo is nothing. As long as he dares to show up, he will definitely die. The Thundercat's face was filled with a calm smile, as if everything was under his control. You're so sure? Didn't young master say that Zhuo Xiaoduo was so powerful and so amazing? Beauties Wu exclaimed. That was then, and this is now. What do you mean? We have discussed a foolproof plan. Ha ha ha. Chapter 975. A foolproof plan? Against Zhuo Xiaoduo? That's great. Beauties Wu was relieved and said, Finally, there's good news. These days, Zhuo Xiaoduo really scare me. The Thundercat laughed and said, I'm here. What are you afraid of? Ha! You look like a hero. Yes, Almighty Cat is really capable. Beauties was smiled and praised him. Ha ha ha. The Almighty Cat felt lighter and said, I'm known as the Almighty Cat. Of course, I'm capable. Ha ha. So what's the foolproof plan? Beauties' eyes were full of curiosity. She smiled and said, You've aroused my curiosity, but you stopped abruptly. Do you want me to ask you more? Beauties was getting more and more into character. Every frown and smile of hers was so charming that it tugged at people's heartstrings. The Thundercat was fascinated by her beauty. He squinted his eyes and laughed. There's no need for you to ask. I'm here for you. I'll tell you about our research. No need. It's confidential. If it's leaked out, you might tell me that you've told me. So Xiaoduo was very considerate and said, Even if I have a clear conscience, your reputation will be tarnished. Tarnish what? The Thundercat smiled faintly and said, Give them the guts. But this time, I did put in a lot of effort into the plan. I arranged many layers of the plan in great detail, hoping that it would succeed in one strike. In order to be absolutely safe, under my suggestion, the aristocratic families have mobilized a total of 5 great spiritual treasures. The Thundercat first explained the magical features of each treasure in detail, which made Beauties gasp in amazement. Her eyes were shining brightly. They're all good stuff. I'm so tempted. The Thundercat laughed and said, We have plenty of such good stuff. Really? Beauties' eyes were like searchlights, full of endless greed. He hurriedly lowered his head to hide his desire. The Thundercat continued, This lineup is really luxurious. Let alone Zhuo Xiaoduo. Even if the king of Zhuolu from the Astral Souls were here, he would still be trapped for 100 seconds. Hearing this, Zhuo Xiaoduo could not stop laughing. She laughed so hard that her body trembled. She covered her mouth with one hand and said, Brilliant plan, brilliant plan. With such a tight arrangement, even if that Zhuo Xiaoduo has the ability to reach the heavens, he will still be defeated. Although he was joking, he sucked in a breath of cold air in his heart. Who said that the people of the Umno Alliance only have muscles for brains? This plan was so detailed that as long as he dared to appear, he would definitely die. Yes, he would definitely die. If Zhuo Xiaoduo didn't know what was going on, he would definitely die if he faced it head-on. There would definitely be no other outcome. He wouldn't even have the chance to be trapped in the city and wait for rescue. After showing off for a while, the Thundercat felt that he had shown off enough. He gradually became restless. Previously, he had not hesitated to reveal such secrets and implicated himself in all the plans and arrangements. It was to show that his family background, strength, and wisdom were all superior to others. He was like a crane in a flock of chickens, far superior to his peers. He was the best choice for a girl. Marrying me is definitely the best choice. such a family background, such ability, such a genius. What are you still hesitating for? But Beauty's was obviously not moved. This made the Thunder Cat even more excited. She was indeed a lady from a famous family. She could still be so reserved in front of a handsome and peerless genius like me. This sky, Thunder Mirror. Zwishauduo coughed and said, "Is it beautiful?" The Thunder Cat laughed and said, "It's ugly. How can it be beautiful when used in battle?" Zwishauduo made it very clear. But the Thunder Cat's answer made Zwishauduo's eyes flash. Not showing it to me? Guarding against me? Or Miss Suyu. The Thunder Cat wanted to touch her hand. Let's play chess. Beauty's was body flashed, and she began to suggest. Crush the opponent. In response to the other party's invitation, the Thunder Cat was instantly energized. Sure. He smiled and said, "To tell you the truth, I, the Thunder Cat, am the #1 chess player among the young generation in the Umno Alliance. I have been the champion in chess competitions for several years. I have always been known as the Chess Saint." After saying that, he really took out the photos of his championship trophy and when he received the award. He showed them to the Beauty to prove that what he said was true. He said proudly, "I can let Miss Sue have 3 pieces. Or let's play some guided chess." Beauty's was smiled faintly and said reservedly, "Chess is just a small game. I play chess to cultivate my mind. I don't care about winning or losing. Let's play a game first. If you are much better than me, I will ask you to let me have 3 pieces." Okay. The Thunder Cat took out his chess set from the space ring elegantly. He insisted on letting Zwishauduo play black first. Beauty's was willing to take advantage of the situation, even if it was just a game of chess. Zwishauduo gladly obeyed and played black first. The first move was the center of the sky. In chess, there was a saying, golden horn, silver edge, and grass belly. Even beginners knew that the center of the sky was not useful. However, Zwishauduo's first move was right there. The Thunder Cat was indeed a chess master. He ignored Zwishauduo's first move when both sides entered the game. He chose the small stone in the upper right corner. Zwishauduo took the upper left corner. The Thunder Cat took the lower right corner, and Zwishauduo took the lower left corner. The Thunder Cat took a big step and flew out from the lower right corner. He took the edge and threatened the central area. Zwishauduo, on the other hand, placed a piece into the top right corner with a pa sound, forcefully attacking and attempting to break a corner first. The Thunder Cat changed the situation quickly. Obviously, he wanted to test Zwishauduo's chess skills. However, Zwishauduo made a quick decision and cut off the Thunder Cat's first move. From this point on, the two sides were caught in a life and death battle. The Thunder Elemental Cat focused its attention, and after 3 moves, Zwishauduo made another sneaky move. He took the lead, and a Heavenly Soldier flew down and smashed into the lower right corner of the Thunder Elemental Cat, forming a 2-sided attack to protect the center. The Thunder Cat was slightly surprised. However, it was just the beginning of the game, and everything was still undecided. Leaving so early just to form a form of cooperation was like abandoning a child to fight to be the first. It was still suspicious of being too hasty. Therefore, he focused on the game. The two sides fought back and forth for an hour. Zwishauduo's face was full of joy. He played 1 piece and locked the Thunder Cat's dragon tail. He also played the entire upper right corner and half of the dragon's side. The game was set and the winner was clear. The Thunder Cat's forehead was sweating. This game was really frustrating for him. His opponent's first move was the Tianyuan point. It was obviously a bad move. However, as the game went on, it became more and more like a coordinated attack. In the end, it became a coordinated attack. No matter which direction the opponent moved, the Thunder Cat had to respond. The Thunder Cat had no time to take care of other things, while the Thunder Cat still had time to set up a trap. However, the opponent's layers of traps made it impossible for him to remove the nail in the middle. Furthermore, his line of defense was slightly impacted and gradually fell apart. The thick and sturdy dragon was actually broken into 2 at the waist and separated into 2 parts. The dragon's tail was also slaughtered and covered in ink. "I lost. Lady, you were really good at Go." The Thunder Cat praised, but he was not convinced. He had been studying Go for many years. He had won many championships with real swords and spears. How could he lose this game so easily? Well, it must be because he thought he was going to win and let his guard down. Otherwise, how could his opponent win so easily? It was absolutely unreasonable. So Xiaoduo smiled faintly and started the second game. In this round, it was still Xiaoduo who went first. But this time, he took the upper right corner of the screen and started a strange formation called the avalanche set. He advanced triumphantly and once again defeated the Thundercat. In the third round, Xiaoduo used the great slanting demon blade to kill the Thundercat 3 times, leaving not a single piece of armor behind. In the dream world, Xiaoduo was a psychic. How could he not know how to play Go? These sets had been passed down for countless years. For Xiaoduo, who had been studying Go in and out of his dream world, with his brain power that was thousands of times stronger than normal people, it would be an exaggeration to say that he had never lost a game. He did not care about winning or losing, because he could not lose at all. No matter how much the Thundercat studied Go, no matter how much he studied Go theory, he could not jump out of the shackles of the current world. After losing 3 games in a row, the Thundercat was so depressed that he did not even have the heart to flirt with the girl. Before this, he was bragging that he was the champion of the Umno Alliance, the #1 player of the younger generation, the Sage of Go. However, in front of this girl, he lost 3 games in a row, and each game was worse than the previous one. In the last game, he even killed the dragon in the middle board. He really did not leave a single piece of armor behind. What's more, the 3 games played by this girl were very different from each other, as if they were played by 3 different groups of people. However, these 3 groups formed their own structure, and each group was far beyond the Thundercat's knowledge. The gap between their chess skills was really too big. The Thundercat, who had come to this conclusion, felt that his self-esteem was hurt. He, the mighty cat, also wanted to save face. So, Miss Sue is such a master of Go. She really is a master of Go. The Thundercat wiped the sweat on his face. Even though he was still a little unwilling, how could he not know that he had lost, admitted defeat, and lost everything? However, the change in his heart was getting bigger and bigger. When he first saw this girl, he only wanted to chase her because she was too beautiful. He just wanted to kiss her for her beauty. Of course, it would be better if he could go further. But now his heart had fundamentally changed. This Miss Sue was not only devastatingly beautiful, but she was also a rare and wondrous woman. At such a young age, she had already reached the God-reigning level, and her foundation was very solid. She was not inferior to the Thundercat at all. After personally experiencing her temperament, it was also the best, natural, and dignified. It seemed that she was proficient in music, Go, calligraphy, and painting, that such a girl could be said to be a natural candidate for the master's wife. Chapter 976. For such a girl, it would be a waste if he only indulged her for one night. Moreover, judging from her appearance, even if he had the intention, she would never do that kind of thing. Moreover, in these 3 consecutive losses, she had defeated him in 3 different ways. She had already faintly expressed her intention of rejecting him. All of a sudden, the Thundercat felt that his heart was really moved. It was budding. Miss Sue, you are indeed beautiful and intelligent. You are so talented that you are not inferior to men. The Thundercat's eyes suddenly became clear, and his face became more serious. The flirtatious look from before was completely gone. So Xiaoduo did not understand the change in this guy's heart at all. He smiled faintly. Do you want to play again? No. The depth of your knowledge in the art of chess is not something I can compare to. The Thundercat said with a respectful attitude. I will go out to arrange something first. I will come back later to invite you to dinner. Okay. So Xiaoduo felt strange that this guy suddenly respected him so much. It was a kind of politeness of an equal exchange. But he did not think too much about it and agreed casually. The Thundercat walked out and sighed softly. If it was just a short-lived marriage, it wouldn't take much thought. However, if he wanted to marry the other party as his wife, it would be extremely difficult. It seems that I need to investigate Miss Sue's family background carefully. The Thundercat frowned. At that time, I may need the help of my family to settle the marriage as soon as possible. Otherwise, based on my previous flirtatious behavior, I am afraid that Miss Sue will not agree at all. Now that I am surrounded by wolves, if someone else beats me to it. Alas, at this moment, the Thundercat was very melancholy. He felt sincere regret for his previous behavior. If you meet the one you love, you will never be different. Alas, until now, I really understand the true meaning of this sentence. The mighty cat was very melancholy. Have you sent the information of Miss Sue back to the family? Yes, I have. Still no reply from the family? Cough, cough. The guard was speechless. Today you flirt with a girl. Tomorrow you want the family to check on you? How can they have so much free time? His family's intelligence agency also needed to rest. I'm serious this time. Sigh, forget it. I'll call seventh uncle myself. The Thundercat was well aware of its reputation in the past. But this time, I really wasn't playing around. He took out his phone and dialed, "Seventh uncle, I'm a cat. What's the matter? If you're here to pick up girls, then don't bother me." No, seventh uncle, I'm serious this time. I want to marry her. The Thundercat begged, I'm serious this time. If I can marry her, I promise I'll be honest for the rest of my life. Are you serious? Seventh uncle's voice also became serious. From his tone, it seemed that this nephew was going to turn over a new leaf. This was a good thing. What's your name? Pass it to me again. Okay, right away. The Thundercat was very obedient. Please, seventh uncle. And if she's really a girl from a good family, you should get married early, settle down, and do some proper work. What's so bad about competing? It's a waste of your talent to act frivolously every day. Seventh uncle lectured. Seventh uncle is right. After putting down the phone, the Thundercat was exultant. There was hope. As long as the family was willing to step in, there was a 90% chance of success. In the UMNO alliance, no family could refuse the marriage proposal from the Lay family. The remaining 10% would be Miss Sue's opinion. But it didn't matter. In the room, so Xiaoduo frowned and pondered. Previously, he had tried to get information from the Thundercat a few times, wanted to take a look at the so-called Sky Thunder Mirror. However, although the Thundercat was infatuated, he still interrupted him. It sounded like he didn't care, but Swiss Xiaoduo knew that how could such a person be so casual? Unless he was pretending to be stupid. This time, Swiss Xiaoduo intended to train himself. Just like what the old man had said, this was a rare opportunity for him to practice with real swords and spears. Swiss Xiaoduo never thought of cutting corners. On the contrary, he wanted more excitement. It would be even better if he could directly break through to the Sky Realm in the UMNO Alliance. Before this, Swiss Xiaoduo didn't even dare to dream of doing this. However, since the old man had already forced him to this extent and threw him here, he would be letting himself down if he didn't properly train himself. Therefore, this time, he gave up on all the conveniences and wanted to train himself. Actually, Swiss Xiaoduo knew that no matter how harsh the old man's words were, with his ability, it wasn't difficult for him to return safely. He could just find a place to hide and cultivate in the Tower of Annihilation for a month or two. Then, when he came out, he would be able to reach the profound mastery level. However, on the path of martial arts, every step of the way was very important. For example, when you have a strength of 1,000 kilograms, do you know how to use it? How to save it? What kind of strength would you encounter? And what would be the best solution? Only knowing the theory wouldn't do. A tiger cub would imitate a dead wolf hunting for its whole life, but it wouldn't dare to attack a real wolf. Even if it attacked, it might not be a match for the wolf. This was the reason. Only by strengthening the foundation at every step would it work. If 1,000 kilograms of strength was raised to 10,000 kilograms without experience in battle, the gap between each level of strength would be a gap that could never be filled. When it came to a profound level of strength, it was necessary to control each output. The greater the gap between the same level and the same level of strength, the greater the gap between them. Why was it that when two people were at the peak of the Sky Realm, both had the same cultivation technique, and both suppressed their cultivation for a certain number of times, the outcome of the battle could be decided so quickly. That was the reason. Therefore, Zhuo didn't even prepare to use the Heavenman Stone this time. It was only in existence as a trump card. They fought in the land of the Wizard Alliance. Real injuries, real healing, and real battles. Charge! Fight! Fight! Other than life-saving methods, Zhuo didn't intend to let himself enjoy too much of the cheat-like benefits. It could be used as a skill, but it definitely couldn't be relied on because it wasn't pure strength. Zhuo knew this very well. He also knew that if he disguised himself as a man and came to Lone Bamboo City, his identity would be exposed sooner or later. Because no matter how good his disguise was, he couldn't let this person who made something out of nothing have a real history and family background. Lone Bamboo City was just a transit station for him. And now, whether it was the Thundercat or the other families, someone should be investigating his identity. Zhuo would never underestimate anyone in this aspect, especially after experiencing the fierce battle at Lone Bamboo Mountain and hearing the plan from the Thundercat. Zhuo knew this very well. There really wasn't anyone who was stupid, including the Thundercat, who wasn't stupid. There wasn't much time left for him to leave safely. While Zhuo and the Thundercat were playing chess, countless people from his 7 families outside had already turned Lone Bamboo City upside down. They were trying their best to find Zhuo. Their spiritual power reached up to 8,000 meters above the ground and down to 1,000 meters below the ground. It was an all-encompassing search. Everyone from the 7 families, including the Flying Heavens and Tao integration experts who were watching from the sky, including the Alliance martial artists who came spontaneously from all over the place, as well as the people under the incineration order who had already gathered here, that all of them were dumbfounded. Where was Zhuo? Where did this kid go? Even after such a thorough search, not a single strand of Zhuo's hair could be found. Wasn't this too illogical? How could such a living person turn into air and disappear? But even if he turned into air, there should still be soul waves, right? Everyone was confused. Then, they had no choice but to fly up to the clouds to find their seniors. The seniors had been watching from the sky, but did they see Zhuo? They didn't need to do anything. Even if it wasn't convenient for them to say it out loud, they could just give them a hint or point them in the direction. But in the clouds, most of the experts were expressionless and unmoving, but they were cursing in their hearts. We didn't see Zhuo either. A few Tao integration experts narrowed their eyes and said Zhuo didn't leave. His soul is still in Lone Bamboo City, but it's very faint. It's in a state where he hasn't condensed his energy, is not using his spells, and is not using his energy. It's just like an ordinary person with his vital energy restrained. He must have put on some makeup and disguised himself as someone else. The people below understood and bowed respectfully. He was still in Lone Bamboo City, but they didn't know where he was hiding for now, as long as they could confirm that he was in Lone Bamboo City. They were afraid that he wasn't there. Above the clouds, a few people looked at each other. You can feel Zhuo's soul waves? I can't. Then you said that his soul waves were still in Lone Bamboo City? And what's with his vital energy restrained? An ordinary person? I'm using common sense to infer that he can only be in Lone Bamboo City. Where else can he go? How can he not be searched by our divine senses? He can only be in a state where his vital energy is restrained, and he's an ordinary person. What else? Do you have any other explanation? Aren't you lying to the people below? I've already made the judgment that best fits the current situation. Do you really want to say that all of us old fellows are going to say that we don't know? Is that really a good thing? Damn, what you said makes sense. Great wisdom, great wisdom. The people who came up to ask immediately went down to report. Zhuo's soul waves are still in Lone Bamboo City. He must be in a state where his vital energy is restrained. He must have put on some makeup and disguised himself as someone else. That's right. No matter how bold Zhuo is, he wouldn't dare to enter Lone Bamboo City with his original appearance. Isn't that asking for death? It's good that we can confirm that he's in Lone Bamboo City. But if he disguised himself as someone else, his vital energy wouldn't be obvious. It would be troublesome. There are almost 6 million people in Lone Bamboo City. The 7 young masters of the 7 families met again to discuss the next step. What we lack now is a way to force Zhuo out. Everyone stared at him. Everyone's eyes fell on Sha Han, Hai Han Shan, Sha Yu, and Kami no Su. Especially this time, there was another young master from the Sha family. This young master was famous for not using his brain. He was only a martial arts fanatic. He was crazy about martial arts and had amazing strength, but he never used his brain. Straight to the point. This young master was called Sha Diao. Sha Diao said, "Could Zhuo have disguised himself as a woman? If that's the case, we can only look for men and not find out." Everyone took a deep breath. If you can't think about it, then shut up. We're used to ignoring it. We can't think of a way, but you're still causing trouble. It's easy for a man to dress up as a woman. Men and women are different. Is it so easy to dress up? But Sha Han, Hai Han Shan, and a few others suddenly felt their hearts skip a beat after the habitual scolding. This. Chapter 977. Okay. Sha Jiao was scolded and immediately shut up. Sha Han and Hai Han Shan frowned and pondered. A young woman? A woman? The two of them looked at each other thoughtfully. This was the same direction. The Thundercat was calm. He had been thinking about how to get closer to the beautiful woman when he got back. He didn't even think about it. The Thundercat had brought a female companion into Lone Bamboo City. Obviously, no one was suspicious of their companions. Is there a way to search the divine soul? Sha Yu whispered. As long as they could collect Zhuo Xiaoduo's divine soul mark, everything would be easy. Everyone looked at the other young master. Tu Yinxiao. He was from the Tu family of the Endless Witch. Tu Yinxiao looked helpless. He said, "I know that you all want my divine soul mark, but there is a limit to the divine soul mark. You need to seize Zhuo Xiaoduo and find Zhuo Xiaoduo's divine soul within a limited distance. Only then can you activate the divine soul mark and find Zhuo Xiaoduo. But we haven't seen Zhuo Xiaoduo yet. The divine soul mark isn't that effective." Hearing Tu Yunxiao's words, all the young masters felt a sense of powerlessness and disappointment. Indeed, they had prepared a trap and were determined to get Zhuo Xiaoduo. As long as Zhuo Xiaoduo showed up, he would be dead for sure. But Zhuo Xiaoduo was strange. He didn't show up and hid in the crowd as an ordinary person. What should they do? Show us Zhuo Xiaoduo's information, appearance, etc. Let's look at it a few more times and study it, Sha Han suggested. And so, Zhuo Xiaoduo's heroic image appeared in the Umno Alliance's meeting room again. The young master's eyes lit up. So handsome. On the other hand, several unprepossessing young masters had black lines running down their foreheads. At a time like this, she was still paying attention to whether the other party was handsome or not. Was there something wrong with her focus? A woman's way of thinking was truly incomprehensible. However, after several hours of discussion, they still felt helpless. Do we have no choice but to passively wait for Zhuo Xiaoduo to appear? Sha Jia frowned. That's all we can do for now. Sha Han narrowed his eyes and frowned, exchanging glances with Hai Han Shan and the others. Search all female martial artists above the nascent soul transformation stage who are not registered in the Lone Bamboo City. Sha Han transmitted his voice. Hai Han Shan nodded slowly. Hai Han Shan immediately sent a voice transmission to issue the order. However, as he was in the process of issuing the order, he suddenly remembered something. Hurriedly, he sent a message to Sha Han. That Thundercat. I heard that it hooked up with a girl before it arrived at Lone Bamboo City. Sha Han was stunned. You didn't bring it from home? Suddenly, he focused his gaze. Both of them turned to look at the Thundercat. While they were having the meeting, Zhuo Xiaoduo was also at the window on the top floor, observing the surrounding environment. His heart was itching unbearably. The trap set by the other party was undoubtedly extremely dangerous. Death was at hand. But the 5 treasures mentioned by the mighty cat really made Master Zhuo's heartbeat faster. Sky-shaking gong, soul-hurting arrow, heavenly thunder mirror, immortal tying lock, yin-yang mirror. Just from the sound of it, one could tell that it was something good. He really wanted it, but they definitely wouldn't give it to him. What should he do? He thought about it seriously, and his brows furrowed slightly. This scene seemed even more beautiful and magnificent when it entered into the eyes of others. A peerless beauty sat leisurely by the window. Her beautiful hair fluttered in the wind. Her gaze was deep, and her brows were lightly knit together. She seemed delicate and powerless, yet she possessed an immortal aura that seemed as if she wanted to ride the wind and leave. Sitting deep and frowning, no one knew who the beauty was thinking of. She was really too beautiful. Zhuo was still racking his brains, painstakingly plotting to get the other party's treasures. Suddenly, Zhuo's eyes widened. What was that thing down there? As far as his eyes could see, there was a long line of carriages the size of a matchbox, pulling something all the way to the west. This was Zhuo. Xiaoduo recognized it at a glance. He was too familiar with this thing. That was the Astral Soul's jade powder. Oh my god, how could there be such a large quantity? Could there be a Umno Alliance High Martial Arts School here? This now was the crucial time for the space of the Tower of Annihilation. Should he take a risk for the Astral Soul's jade powder? So Xiaoduo thought for a while, but still did not want to let it go. After all, this time, he did not know how long it would take for him to return. Would the meridians in the Tower of Annihilation not be replenished for a few months? Obviously, this would not work. So Xiaoduo frowned, watching the carriages disappear around the corner. His eyes flashed, and suddenly he took out a bottle of laurel honey from the space ring and opened it bit by bit. He used the extremely precious laurel honey to stimulate the scent and used it as a perfume. It filled the air for a while, and then her delicate body was immersed in the fragrance for a moment. Then she opened the window, and her white dress fluttered. Whoosh! She floated out like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Her posture was elegant, beautiful, and overflowing with radiance. She was devastatingly beautiful. In an instant, the entire sky above the Lone Bamboo Hotel was suddenly filled with the rich and elegant scent of osmanthus. Within a few thousand meters, as long as one smelled it, they could not help but feel that their minds were suddenly much clearer, that countless people could not help but look up. In midair, they saw a fairy in white, her clothes fluttering and her hair dancing in the wind. The nimble and graceful figure that flashed by carried boundless beauty and boundless immortal energy as it vanished into the distance. Although that peerless fairy's speed was extremely fast, everyone could clearly feel that it was as if she was moving in slow motion. This kind of extreme beauty, this kind of scene of a fairy descending to the mortal world, lingered in their hearts, replaying over and over again. In a flash, the beauty had disappeared into the distance, but the two ribbons still seemed to ripple in front of their eyes, intoxicated, like a fairy, like a dream. It made people linger and forget to return. Infinitely intoxicated, the countless people would remember this day, especially the graceful figure and the rich scent of bay laurel. There were many people who would never be able to forget it. In fact, there were even quite a few people who became poets on this day. The legend of the fairy descending to the mortal world also spread in Lone Bamboo City for a long time. Laurel fragrance floats in the 9 heavens. The blue sky is filled with colorful dresses, dreamlike, like a fairy's presence. It makes me yearn for it. The young masters of the various clans who were still in the meeting also smelled the pervasive scent of bay laurel. Their minds raced as they stood up one by one. What is this smell? I can feel that. My soul is in an unprecedented state of clarity. Is there a treasure? The young masters who were facing the window unintentionally raised their heads and saw the beautiful figure flash by. Immediately, their souls became ethereal. Their eyes were full of intoxication. There's a beauty, a young master said with a groan. The Thundercat subconsciously stood up. Where is she? Everyone frowned at the same time. The Thundercat felt more and more uneasy and hurriedly floated out and went straight to the top of the building. He felt more and more fragrant, but that intoxicating fragrance was slowly dispersing. He opened the door and went in. and could not help but be stunned. The beauty was nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, the Thundercat felt lost. "Miss Duo, where did you go?" At this time, Shahan walked over. "Thundercat, that girl of yours." Before he could finish his sentence, he saw the Thundercat fly out in a hurry, ignoring what Shahan said. Shahan was stunned, but the Thundercat had already disappeared. Duo flew out in such a brazen manner. Wherever he went, countless people would fall head over heels for him. That omnipresent fragrance, that fairy-like and dreamlike feeling. She flew all the way, and finally, she saw the team slowly leave the city and go to a huge wayside. Duo looked at it and was overjoyed. It turned out that this was a place specially for discarding Astral Soul's jade powder. Although there were many other things, most of them were piles of Astral Soul's jade powder. Although the taste was not very good, how could Duo dislike it? God knows how many years of Astral Soul's jade powder had been piled up here. The beauty's figure flashed in the air and instantly turned into mist. She left behind a fragrance and disappeared in the forest opposite the wayside. That strong fragrance was blown all the way to the depths of the forest by the mountain wind. As for Duo, he had already drilled into the ground. For the sake of caution, he controlled his spirit's sense and didn't disperse it. He even used his true essence to wrap around the aura of his flaming sun scripture, only burning 3 feet away from his body. He slowly sank down a few hundred meters. Then he changed his path and extended in that direction. Nothing was more important than safety. At this time at the city gate, the Thundercat chased out anxiously, following the fragrance, and shouted, "Miss Sue, where are you? Sister Duo, Sister Duo." It was as if it was chasing crazily. The guards of the Lei family were following behind it, but they were speechless. An hour later, in this wayside that was rarely visited by people, the piles of Astral Soul's jade powder began to disappear. After a long time, Duo took away most of the Star Soul jade powder and went back to where he came from. Then, he started digging a hole in the opposite direction from where he was at the start of his stealth. In a desolate mountain, the Thundercat was anxiously looking for a beautiful woman with a group of people. Sister Duo. The Thundercat was really about to cry. His heart felt as if it had been divided into several pieces by blood. "Don't go. I really fell in love with you. I want to take you as my wife. I'm not just playing around at whoa. I'm serious this time. But why did you leave without saying goodbye? Why is that? What did I do wrong? I'll change, okay?" His heart was beating fast, and he was in a panic. It was a panic of I'm about to lose. I'll never pick up girls again. I'll be loyal to you until the end. The Thundercat beat his chest and stamped his feet, regretting. All of a sudden, a cold voice suddenly sounded. "Have you picked up a lot of girls before? Looking for a guaranteed monthly ticket? That you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.